Yes, you did. You made it weird.
What's happening, weirdos? This is the incredible Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday returns to You Made It Weird. I think this is his third, maybe his fourth time. I think it's his third. He has a new best-selling book out right now, which is called Discipline is Destiny. It is incredible. It is a bestseller. You need to check it out. Also, just all of his work. The Obstacle is the Way. Ego is the Enemy. I mean, he's got incredible stuff. Courage is Calling is another new one. His books are life changers. You got to get into it. He's incredible and he's one of a kind. And I'm so glad that he is back on the podcast. A couple things to plug. Thanks, first of all, to everybody that came out, all the weirdos that came out to Largo last night, which was awesome. I'm recording this on Monday. Thanks to everybody that came out on Sunday. Don't know why I'm splitting hairs. Adam Sandler was there. Judd Apatow was there. Mae Martin was there. And Christian Lee Hudson was there. An incredible show. And we do it every month. The next one is on November 3rd. And that's a special one. It's to benefit Homeboy Industries, a cause very near and dear to so many, including myself. So please go to largo-la.com if you'd like to come to the one on November 3rd. If you do not live in the LA area or you're not going to be in the LA area, I am on tour. I'm about to be on tour. Very exciting. I'm going to be in Toronto. They tell me Toronto, not selling so good. Toronto. Come on, Toronto. Please, Toronto. Toronto, can you hear me? At the Bluma Appel Theater on October 14th. PeteHolmes.com for tickets. That's just a standalone ad for Toronto, because Toronto's hurting. Atlantic City, New Jersey, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Washington, D.C. Tickets to all of those are available on PeteHolmes.com. I'm so excited about this hour. I think it's super dupes fun and super dupes fun-y. So I hope you can, what a stupid plug. Just go to PeteHolmes.com and come see me on the road, please, and thank you. And this episode is brought to us by our friends. I'm so grateful to be working. These are PYM Chews. Prepare your mind. Original mood chews. And these, they don't leave my side. I have some in my car. Obviously, I have some in my house, in my office. I have been swearing by them because, frankly, I don't know why this past week I've just been overwhelmed, like a little bit of a flood of stress and anxiety, and that's exactly what PYM Chews are for. First of all, not only do they taste incredible, but they are support, natural support, giving your brain what it needs to cope with overwhelm, anxiety, and stress. They help you manage those feelings, and it's wonderful when you're feeling worried, stressed out, or as we like to say on We Made It Weird, Val and I always say, you have a bee in your belly, just that restless anxiety thing you can't quite land on yourself, to mix a metaphor. You just chew 2 of these delicious, natural, citrus-flavored, no-sugar-added chews, and literally, I can swear to this, it's changed my life. In minutes, you feel more centered, calm, and in control. In fact, I have quite a bit to do today, including record these intros. I was feeling a little overwhelmed and threw in a couple PYM chews about 30 minutes ago. I didn't even think I'd be doing these intros today. And I don't think it's a coincidence that these babies helped me get into that workflow state and not feeling overwhelmed. Literally, the first time I tried them, I thought they were too good to be true. And I immediately bought some for my mom and my brother. Just so happy that anxiety and stress have a natural, non-addictive, non-psychoactive solution. I like taking it at the start of my day or at night to wind down, or sometimes, like I did today, in the middle of my day to help me ease into my work. How do they work? PYM Chews are comprised of proven amino acid complexes and adaptogens that help support your brain and your body's ability to organically support your ability to manage and tolerate stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. These are specifically formulated amino acids that target your neurotransmitters, specifically the GABA system, a naturally occurring neurotransmitter that helps the body manage chronic stress, supplying your body with GABA, L-theanine, and rhodiola. PYM is on a mission to help end the stigma surrounding mental health and make a better mood accessible to all. And for real, it's changed my life for the better. And even better, a percentage of their profits, 1%, goes towards mental health nonprofits, including Bring Change to Mind. It's a gentle, effective, and natural way to give your body the nutrition it needs to fight off stress, and I am happy to say that it works. And I'm so happy that they are here to support the show. So if you like this show and want to support your mood, your feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and stress, and support this show, go to youcanpym.com/weird. You will get a discount by going to youcanpym.com/weird and do your body a favor, do your brain a favor, and show your support for this podcast. Last but not least, we're also brought to you by our friends at Onnit. One of the oldest original Pete's Picks is Alpha Brain. I'm holding it here because obviously I keep it here on my desk. Alpha Brain is earth-grown ingredients. It is not a stimulant. It is a supplement. Supplement is it's not quite right. It's like giving your creativity fish food. If your ideas are fish, Alpha Brain is like the fish food you sprinkle on top. Helps with memory, helps with focus, helps me to dial in. Anytime I have to do something that involves my brain, if it's this podcast, if it's these intros that I'm recording right now, stand-up comedy, writing, acting, even just going on a date with Val, and I want to have full access to my brain, I will take a few Alpha Brain 20, 30 minutes beforehand. Like I say, it's not a stimulant. It's not like coffee. It's not an upper. It just gives your brain the earth-grown nutrition that it needs to function at its best. So if you're doing something for your work or maybe for your fun, if it involves your brain, why not optimize your brain? I swear I've been taking these for over, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And I keep them in my car, in the office, in my travel bag. I panic if I don't have them. Not because it doesn't give me that like coffee feeling, it just gives me that feeling that I have what I need to function brain-wise at my highest. So it's an absolute game changer, and you can try it and show your support of this podcast by going to Onnit, ONNIT.com/weird. You'll get 10% off everything you see on that landing page. Go to Onnit.com/weird. Get some Alpha Brain, support your brain, support this show, and show your support. We really appreciate it. In the meantime, everybody, enjoy the incredible Ryan Holiday. So honored that this guy is my friend. So honored that he came back on the show. And be sure to check out his new book. I want to make sure I get it you know what? I'm just going to say check out all of his books. For real, for real. They're incredible. We talk a lot about the discipline one. You're going to love it. Get into it.
Ryan.
How are you?
Close those circles, dude, on your watch.
Oh,
Close those circles, dude. Get that activity, dude. You didn't run today?
Not yet.
Isn't that a big thing for you?
Yeah, I like to do it in the morning when my travel schedule's all messed up. I ran late. I did something super hard yesterday, though.
What was that?
Well, so a friend and I bought this ghost town in
Okay, what?
in near Death Valley. It's
Wait, is it in Death Valley or near
it's
Death?
above Death Valley. It looks
Called
down.
near Death Valley?
No, it's called Cerro Gordo. It looks
near Death experience, near Death Valley.
It looks down onto Death Valley and Mount Whitney and stuff. Anyways, I ran from the bottom of the town to the top, which is it was 8 miles, but it was
an M&M.
it was
You ran an M&M.
you get in at 3,500 feet and then it ends at 8,500 feet. So
Whoa.
we'd been talking about doing it, and I decided to do it yesterday, and I was not prepared for it mentally or emotionally or physically.
So it gets harder as you go.
Yeah, well, so it's basically that's
A non-runner. So it's harder. So it would be like eating a bucket of chicken and then a pot roast. I understand.
Yeah, it went. You gain almost a mile of elevation.
Wow.
So that means you're running almost straight up 1 mile.
I hate this.
And the air is getting thinner. So it was brutal.
Why did you do that?
I thought I decided I was going to do it, and then we were going to film it and stuff, which we ended up doing, and then. But anyways, my body quit at 7 miles, and then there was a mile left.
You did an almost M&M.
I mean, I did the whole thing. I'm just saying, my body it was.
Oh, at 7 miles, you just
at
wanted
7 miles,
to
it
quit.
was done, and then it was there was still. And you know, it's actually there's a kind of a philosophical lesson in it. You know, when you're this happens if my wife's I'll be home at 2. Can you watch the kids? Mentally, I'm good up until 2:01, and then if I've told myself that's the end, and then she's like, oh, I need another 30 minutes. That 30 minutes is super hard.
You are so right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it goes not the other way, but sometimes if I know Val's coming home at 2:30
Yeah.
and I'm home alone at 2,
Yeah.
most productive 30 minutes of my life.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
under the gun.
That's
it's
true.
Indiana Jones work. The boulders not that Val's a boulder, but I'm just saying your free time is about to get squashed.
I was very much under the impression it was 7 miles. It was 7-ish miles, not 8-ish miles.
Brutal.
So the last mile was like, that's like what rips your heart out.
I completely understand. So you did do it. How did you feel when you completed it? And then you have to tell me about buying a ghost.
I felt very good. I felt very good that I'd accomplished it. I was very proud. And then I felt very terrible. And I walked into my room and I fell asleep for 3 hours. So
yeah, your body was like,
yeah, it was like
Apple
all the alarm
menu,
bells were going
sleep.
off.
Yeah.
And it was not great. But
really like pain, shaking, breathing.
yeah, I think it was the altitude. And I mean, it was just like, do you ever look at one of your days and you're like, that was not a smart or responsible way to plan your day?
I just had this.
Yeah.
I just had my brain assessed for ADD, and one of the things they notice that I'm bad with is shifting gears.
Oh, okay.
And it's one of the reasons why if you put me in a difficult thing, but that's the only thing I have to do today, I thrive. But if they're like, you're going to go from this, and you're this kind of Pete, then you're this kind of Pete, I won't do it. And it's like irresponsible, actually. Like the third thing is going to suck.
Yeah.
I'm 2 things max.
Yes.
Yeah, do you relate to that?
Well, so yesterday I took a 5:30 a.m. flight from Austin to Las Vegas. I gave a talk in Las Vegas. And I drove from Las Vegas to Death Valley, which took 5 hours because the roads were closed. And then I got out of the car and then I did that. And it wasn't until the end that I was like, that was too much. That was more than a reasonable person should have committed to.
The first step of the run, I would have been like, let's do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you did it.
I do that a lot. I way overcommit and then only like in it am I like, oh, that's like too much.
Well, that was one of the chapters of your new book that I thought was great, was about rest, was about the false economy of overworking?
Yeah, that's Steinbeck.
Yeah. Okay, well, I love that. And I'm a huge believer in that. And let me load you with this, but then I want you to talk about it. I've noticed the most productive day of the week, I try and take like a good old-fashioned Sabbath, like a Saturday.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Not a true Sabbath.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like not walking over them, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just mean I put my phone in a drawer, which is the only way.
Yes.
We both know. Just saying don't look at it doesn't work. Goes in a drawer. But that is the day that I'm jotting things on like an envelope, just a $1 million sentence. It's not about money. I just mean like something that is like, oh, I cracked it. And I was like, that's, it's counterintuitive. The most productive thing you can do is to stop working. What would you talk a little bit? I loved it.
Yeah, I think it's like when you're trying really hard, it's like golf. When you try really hard at golf, you're worse at golf.
Oh my God.
And
so funny.
I think so. Like the harder you push yourself, you can mess up. But yeah, the chapter in the book is interesting. Is about Greg Popovich, who invents this thing in the NBA like 10 years ago, which
do you know this?
He's the best. He's the best. But you would
I
think,
don't know.
It's
when
like,
I read your book, I'm like, oh, there's an NBA. Like I don't know what's going on.
Two recent, like within the last 10 to 12 years in the NBA, they like discovered that the 3-point line was worth more points than shots from the 2-point line. Like it's like obviously always true. And then like some math genius in the front office was like, hey guys, it's worth more points if we shoot here than here.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, so
because it is just literally
like
worth more
when
points.
you were a kid,
Yes.
The NBA was primarily about getting the ball close to the basket where a really tall person would dunk it in.
Yes.
And because they were so tall, they would make it most of the time.
Yes.
Tall and big. This
Cherry
is Shaq.
picking.
Yeah. But then, like if you've heard of Steph Curry is short and not super tall and strong, but he's very accurate from the 3-point line.
Okay.
And this revolutionized the NBA because even if you miss a higher percentage of your 3-point shots, they're still on average worth more points than a higher percentage from the 2-point line.
Yes.
Which is all
No,
second.
don't roll your eyes like it's boring. I thought that was very interesting.
But this is a tangent to the
Love
actual.
a tangent.
That's a recent invention in the NBA. A game that's like 70, 80 years old.
And now you see more Larry Birds.
The whole game is around the 3-point line. And even big guys who would typically get the ball low also have to shoot 3-pointers. And if they're not good at it, then they're not as good as someone who can.
Okay.
But the other invention, which Popovich pioneers, is he realizes that players tend to get tired towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And that if you rest them, they are better in the playoffs.
Can I just say, when I was listening to this chapter, there was part of me that was like, sometimes it just gets a little too close to like farmers and livestock. Do you
Okay.
ever get that feeling?
No.
Where they're like, well,
Oh,
if they plow
sure,
the fields,
sure.
but you got to
Yes,
rest
yes,
the ball.
yes.
There's not a lot of love. Like,
Yes.
it seems
They're
loving.
like numbers on a balance sheet.
Exactly.
Yes,
but
yes.
they're talking about a human person, and they're like, if we rest him, like,
But
that's
in
like
his,
a very
it's almost that he was like, oh, we just treat these are thoroughbred racehorses,
And we're
treating them like they're not. And
Yes.
and so he makes this decision in a nationally televised game against the Heat, which is their rivals. He sends the players home. And he's like, you played in the Olympics last year. We made it all the way to the very deep in the playoffs last year. You're like in your 15th season. Like, this is too much. This game doesn't matter. What matters is, are you ready during the playoffs? And so we're gonna rest you. And he calls this load management.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
A dumb sports question. It's already a foregone conclusion that they're going to be in the playoffs.
No, but the game is 82 seasons long. So if you're
Right.
like, obviously they matter, and they matter closer towards the postseason when it's like,
Yes.
it's more clear how many games will separate you and what place will make.
I see.
But he goes like, hey, it's not worth it. I talked to this one on my podcast. I talked to this one.
Edit that out.
I talked to this mountain bike racer. Her name was Kate Courtney, and her coach told her once, she's like, because she's sort of like me, this works too hard in practice. She's like, do you want to be fast now or fast later?
Oh, wow.
And so that's what Popovich is making the trade-off.
He's going
do you
for
want to
fast
be
later.
good later, or do you want to be good for a long time, or do you want to hurt yourself now?
Yeah.
And so he rests them. The funny part of the story is that he thinks he's sending them home on the team plane. But there's a problem with the team plane. And so he ends up having to book them a Southwest flight. And so
they're
these
on it with a
three
bunch of locals.
superstars
Yeah.
who are 7 feet tall are scrunched. And so that was also the reason they ended up getting in so much trouble for it, is that everyone knew it was coming because they'd been seen on, like, instead of flying
just wearing
towards
trench coats
Miami,
and
they're on a
sunglasses.
Southwest flight towards San Antonio, like the day of the game. And that was
my
part of
God.
that's part of how it went. But
Even pre-Twitter, that rumor could spread just on a
Yes.
rotary phone.
Well, this was 2012, so this was.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, but that's my point. This is
I
not.
can't believe it broke that late.
This wasn't like 1982.
I've been picturing winning time this whole time.
No, this is very recent.
Yeah, Steph Curry is a recent player, everybody.
There may still be one or two players from that team that have not retired. Like that
Wow.
recent.
Okay.
I
Wow.
mean, like one of the players, Manu Ginobili, who's awesome, and he would actually love you.
Really?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
He's
Real
just
quick,
really
just
funny, and he
real
loves
quick.
books and
Okay,
podcasts
yeah,
and stuff.
okay.
Anyways, he was inducted in the Hall of Fame like this week. So
Wow.
so that's how recent it is. Like
Okay.
but the idea that even the NBA more recently, like in the last 3 or 4 years, as a league, not even like a team trying to get advantage, realized that back-to-back games are really bad for the players.
Yeah.
So like they have to get on that mean like and Baxter Holmes wrote this piece in ESPN about it, about like sleep. Like the NBA has only recently started to think about like how much sleep are you getting. And so all of these things which seem very basic are in fact not basic at all. And even at the elite level they're not basic. And
That's insane to me.
Yes.
Because my whole life, I think you're the same way. One of the things we relate over is looking to get that Coca-Cola recipe just right.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at things like shifting gears. Like I don't want to, now I'm adding that to my recipe. Don't shift gears more than twice in
Yeah.
a day. Because if I had my Largo show and I had a podcast and one more thing, the Largo show's going to not be
Yeah.
as good. It sucks. I need that rest and that relief of burden. But sleep is such an obsession of mine. It's like if I have a great day, I'm looking at not just last night's sleep, but a few nights before. I can't believe the NBA wasn't having everybody wear, what are they called? Whoops and stuff?
Yeah, well, it's like, what are you optimizing for? If you're optimizing for having the most efficient schedule, you're not thinking about the people who who are like the things you're moving around.
Yes.
Right? And so it's
You
only.
should be seeing like when they talk to their parents.
Yeah.
You really should.
Yeah.
You should go like Jordan, like remember how Jordan plays better when he's mad.
Yeah.
You should be like, this guy plays better. Steph Curry plays better if he doesn't call his mom on Sunday or if he does. And it sounds like a bit.
Well,
But I'm funnier if I'm angry because I just had a bad call home.
Well, all the teams now have sports psychology. They've all started to think
they
about
have?
that stuff. Yeah. because they're like, we pay this person $40 million a year,
Yes.
and then we're just like, go do your thing.
Dude, it's the same with acting. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm just like, actors coming in hungover, still drunk, not sleeping. And you're just like, you want to think, hey, we're giving, let's say it's $1 million for a movie. We want to think that means you're going to get 8 hours or at least something. But you're like, no. I'm not saying we should marshal this, but maybe not everybody knows that those things matter.
No, they don't. Or there's just a million, like for the like I know all these things, and then when the pandemic happened and it took a bunch of stuff away,
The pandemic?
it was suddenly like,
I'm kidding.
oh, this is what those opportunity costs look like, because I'm not doing stuff. And now my other stuff is better.
So is it in their contract now that it's like, we want access to your sleep data?
No.
You see guys that want to stay out all night, give their whoop to someone else, like, you got to sleep
a lot
for
of
me.
teams now, like that, you wear heart monitors in practice, and they can track like who's working hard, who's working too hard. They can try to catch people like before injuries and stuff, especially in college sports where they have more like control over the players. The problem is these are also like grown adults who have sacrificed so hard to get where they are. You'd think, oh, of course they want to sacrifice more.
Yeah.
But there's also a part of you that's like, but I'm
here.
22 and I made $10 million last year.
Yes.
I don't want to be a monk.
What is it's like success actually starts to become the impediment. This is something, did you watch the Donut King documentary?
No.
I was very interested that I've told this a million times, and I'm pretty sure it's Cambodian immigrants started all the donut places out here in LA. And I found this was fascinating because the reason why they started losing after one generation of really kicking ass, making millions and millions of dollars, was because when you make millions and millions of dollars, you send your kids to college, and kids that go to college don't want to work at their parents' donut place for free.
Yeah.
Which is how they kept their overhead so low and why they made millions of dollars. So it's like success ends. So here they are. You make all these sacrifices. Now you're 22 and I give you $10 million. It's like the worst thing I could do.
Yeah.
It's like the absolute worst choice.
Well, yeah, Tennessee Williams calls it the catastrophe of success. And so, you arrive, you do your thing, and now, and this is what I kind of am talking about in the book, is like, before you had to have discipline, because if you're not disciplined, you can't, like, get to where you wanted to go. But now you're here, and now you can do whatever you want. And now it's like a different kind of discipline is required.
That occurred to me reading your book. It reminded me of another book. The title is escaping me, but it's something like, you made it, now what? Like, what do you do after you reach a cruising altitude?
Yeah.
People lose. That's why, not to bring up my work, but like Crashing was an easily compelling show because it's about making it. But what's actually pretty interesting, but it's less easy to describe to people, is what do you do when you've like made it and now you're tempted to fuck off, become an alcoholic, phone it in? Like, we see this with artists and athletes all the time.
And I actually think that's the harder thing, because like there is a version where you solve that problem by just never accepting that you've made it. Right? So like
this is what you see.
You remain perpetually hungry. Like the reason Michael Jordan is making himself mad is so he has something to prove.
Right.
And
he wants to play like he's still trying to prove, which is what he was doing. Like, I can do this. Now he's doing it. Now he has to be mad at somebody just to stay that way. Okay.
Yeah, and that works, but it's not exactly a recipe for being like, I don't even want to say a good person, but like a happy person. Like it's not, it's very costly to everyone around you and also to sort of enjoying that success. So to me, can you be good at what you do and be like, find a reason to be good with it without using the sort of artificial fuel of like, oh, I'm going to pretend I didn't make it. Yeah. I'm still angry or whatever. Like,
it's a cheap fuel.
Yes.
It's not a clean burning gas.
That's right.
It affects the people around you and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I actually see people, or I'd love to hear what you think about this. Like, sometimes when I get low, like let's say something goes wrong, then I do catch myself having more naturally occurring motivation.
Sure.
And it's because I did something and I felt like a fraud. I did a show in Vegas. It didn't go my way. It was a corporate show.
Yeah.
Those are awful.
You
Typically difficult shows. And it didn't go well. And then the next show, you're really fighting for it. And then I started to go like, at really, really high levels, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, whoever, are they failing on purpose? Like, sometimes I wonder, Are they investing in something knowing they're going to fail because they want to get mad? Are they Jordaning it that way?
Yeah, in sports, they'll make something up. So it'd be like, okay, Kevin Durant wins with Golden State. And then like commentators said, well, you weren't the bus driver. Like you weren't, it didn't count because you're with other people.
Wow.
And then so like he ends up going to another team and it hasn't gone well for a lot of reasons.
Katie's laughing.
But the point is like, the idea that like you're not a success because you were successful with other successful people is exactly the kind of like insidious evolutionary like ego-driven lie that we tell ourselves and other people tell us, so we're not happy and content and just like good.
Right.
There has to be like a reason that it's not enough.
But that's why it's sort of insanity. I don't know if you know that I love a woman named Byron Katie who has something called The Work. Does that sound familiar? Ring a bell? She does this whole thing where you would take into question your beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm almost done. I know people have heard me talk about this too much. But if you go like, I need another championship,
Yeah.
she would say, is that true?
Yes.
And like, what's behind it? Like,
Yeah.
I need another championship to be happy. Is that true? She could like help settle them down
Yeah.
and go, dude, you have all of your needs met, a family that loves you, a house in Bora Bora, or whatever the fuck it is. Just be happy. But it would break everything in the West. Like, we need these myths.
And that's what I mean. So like, let's say she worked, and I do that with myself. Like, so let's say you get there and you're like, no, I actually don't need another championship.
Yeah.
Can you still be good at basketball without need? Like, can you get to a place where you're doing what you want because you like doing it, or it's pure and it's part of who you are and it's your calling, etc., and not... This is the drama that's surrounding Tom Brady, to go back to sports right now. He leaves New England, which is like the most grueling place you could possibly play sports.
News to me.
Yeah, he goes to Tampa Bay, and one of the speculations is he goes there because he wants to continue playing football, but his wife wants him to play it in a more like sustainable environment where he's not like a miserable mess all the time, where he's not like grinding himself. So he goes and he wins there, proves everyone wrong, wins the most Super Bowl rings that anyone's ever won, and then retire. He has a really good season last year, retires at the end of it, or speculate he's going to retire. He retires. He makes it like 20 days, and then he unretires, and he's coming back this year. And now, again, I don't know him, so I'm using this as a general metaphor rather than speculating on a certain person's personal life. But the argument, or the speculation is that his wife is leaving him over this. That the agreement was he would retire. She had been like sort of stay at home with the kids this whole time.
And she's like, you better retire because I need you around.
Yeah, and plus football is like a super dangerous game, and like it's like boxing. Like you should leave before it's too late.
Yes.
And so that to me is like so if you can keep doing it and it doesn't tear your family apart, then it's probably good, then you should keep doing it. But like if you would trade your family for one more shot,
well, that's an addiction, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
At that point, it's literally an addiction. I also wonder, because the question you just asked, couldn't be more fascinated. Can you generate your own heat, as opposed to like, I've been thinking about like how the Golden Globes or the Emmys, they just had the Emmys, or the Oscars, like, are these gifts? Sometimes I go like, what a bunch of bullshit, but I'm like, or is it like a nice thing that we all agree to do, going like, look, Denzel Washington, you made it, but we're gonna make an award that even you had to wait until, well, Training Day was his second, but you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, we're gonna wait for a long time to give you a reason to keep doing it, because human beings are like meaning-making animals, and we'll even make meaning for others. Because like Petey that wants to prove it to somebody, like I love winning somebody over.
Yeah.
I love winning a new thing over, like going like I can, like a little bit of that Jordan, like I can do this. But once you've proven enough of those things, I do catch myself going like, well, if I did this, then maybe I could just like slowly fade away, or meaning like find balance in a different, like, I think this is interesting to you, right? Like at what point do you take even more for you and your family and even more energy away from just your climbing mountain stuff.
But and that's are you good at the thing because you actually enjoy the puzzle of the thing and like actually it's impossible to turn that off, or is it that you were good at the puzzle and then someone said you can be good at the puzzles and there's all these extrinsic external rewards for it, and then we sort of conflate the two?
I don't think I'm the authority.
Yeah, I don't know.
I really don't.
But
Yeah,
I would
I'm
like to think
confused.
you could be really good at what you do. Maybe not like some sort of objective, like the number one person, because maybe that takes a certain level of extraness.
Yeah.
But that you could just be world class at something and do it because you like being world class at it.
I'd love to hear your answer. The closest I come is stand up.
Yeah.
I go like, that actually, when it goes well,
Yeah.
not Vegas.
Yeah.
But if I go into the Comedy Store and I perform, and there is a little bit of a competition, it's not nasty, but if you blow the doors off and it wasn't a good room, that's a great feeling. And it's like, it's up. I've never done cocaine, but I have to imagine just what cocaine feels like. You have a very invincible, happy feeling, and I'll be a little bit more balanced through the week because I kind of like met that specialness need. The other stuff, I'm not so sure. Like I'm haunted, and I'd love to know your answer. Here's $300 million.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what do you keep doing? I can tell you I would keep doing stand-up.
Yeah.
But, and I could tell you I would keep, tell me what's your answer? And what goes through your mind when you
I
consider
don't know.
something
I mean,
like that?
I think it's tricky. Stand-up, I'm jealous of stand-up because it's this weird equalizing thing inside your, like what other sort of profession has like this thing where everyone submits their pretenses and equalizes themselves in a sort of humble setting and just does the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there isn't really, like, that'd be like if the
mean it's a
NBA
level
also
playing
had
field.
these pickup games
Yeah,
or something, which I guess
exactly.
they do, but it's not really, that's not how it works.
It's
in
how
most
it works.
things.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is sort of very pure. So the thing is just doing the thing and getting the reaction from the audience. The purest form of it like exists, and you can just do it. And then you do see most of the really big, objectively successful top people in the thing still do that. Mm-hmm. And with writing, though, I see a lot of writers get very successful and then they don't really write books anymore, or they find other stuff that is similar, but they don't do the hard thing of the thing.
Keep going.
I like the hard thing. I do mostly the hard thing, but even that though, like there's a.
I loved it.
When I was finishing this book, I was like sitting at home one day, I guess just in the middle of the day, and my 6-year-old was like sitting at the table coloring. I guess he was 5 then. And he said, "I'm sorry you lost your job, Dad." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I'm sorry you lost your job writing books." And he had just thought like I wasn't doing it anymore. But I was doing it like a lot. I was just doing it like less like a crazy person.
Right.
And so it's like
So he didn't recognize it
ceased to exist as like a thing that was like stressing him out. And it was like one of those weird things. Like it was a weird like offhand remark that I don't think maybe he even didn't mean it, but that's what it meant to me.
Yeah.
And it was just like one of those like offhanded observations that kids can make. But I was like, oh yeah, but that's to me that is a harder needle to thread and thing to do than to sell a book that's sold however many millions of copies, right? Mm-hmm. Like more people, although not that many people, can be really objectively successful. How many of them can do it and are not like monsters or unbalanced crazy people or
right,
whatever.
and achieving that balance really difficult. Going back to Jordan,
yes,
kind of creating phantoms to keep yourself going.
Yes,
it's a really special thing because I'm with you. So when I did a network sitcom, Birbiglia, not Mulaney, Birbiglia and I were talking about it. I was like, it's funny, man. I have this movie idea. I've had this movie idea for many years. And I was like, since I've been doing this show, I was totally happy with this, but I was like, I haven't really been working on the idea, the movie idea.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
And Birbiglia goes, I don't want to say I call bullshit on this, but it's very easy to be Master Splinter in this moment and be like, that's why I don't do those things. But he was talking about the risk of comfort and the risk of getting the sweet gig, which that was. And then he's like, what won't you make because your train came in this way? Let's be completely clear. Network sitcoms pay more money than other jobs. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You're like, why would you bust your ass for 2-3 years writing a movie for maybe what you would make in a couple weeks on a
Right.
sitcom. And that's a dangerous question.
Yeah. And it's one thing you have no control, but it's certain. The other thing, you don't have any control and it's uncertain.
So why would you choose
Yeah.
the other? Why do you like the difficult thing? I mean, that's super interesting.
Well, I mean, I think writing is the thing. And then like Cheryl Strayed once made this distinction I saw between writing and publishing, which I really like.
Oh, wow.
And like writing is the thing that I like doing, and writing is the thing that ultimately is sort of up to me and only I can do.
This is stand-up. You could change that with stand-up. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that, I also think like what kind of success is it that the reward for it is not doing the thing that you're good at and that you previously found a lot of meaning and happiness in?
How is it a reward to stop doing the thing that used to give you joy?
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's
Because
absurd.
you're busy or whatever.
Well, let me put this to you, because publishing and writing, love it. Val and I just had lunch, and we talk about our goals and dreams and like where we're headed, like your Herculean moment.
the crossroads.
Where are we going? What are we doing? Is comfort really the goal? Whatever it is. And I was like, you know what it is? If I had whatever the number is, let's say it's $10 million. It's just like, here you go. That's money, more money than you need for your life.
Yeah.
For your life, for your family. It's like, here you go. I'm like, I would keep doing stand-up, writing, but I wouldn't chase filming specials, publishing.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
that's not fun.
Yeah.
Nobody likes going around being like, do you want a special? Like, it might be fun to be Bill Burr or Tom
But don't you
Segura.
think if you were just purely doing stand-up for that reason, and then you were like, this is my best work,
Then the
you're like,
specials would
I
come.
would do a special, but and I wonder if that would actually make a better special, because there wouldn't be any like thirst in it. It would just exist as you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I've caught myself, I love writing TV pilots as well, and TV shows and episodes and all that sort of stuff. And it's a very tricky thing when you start writing the show to sell. Like you're like, this will sell.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know what my artistic goal is? And you see this with Chappelle and whatever others. It's like, and sometimes I say this to the audience, I go, let's stop pretending there's an after this show. Let's do stand-up as if we're terminally ill.
Sure.
Let's do stand-up as if at the end of the show, the whole theater explodes. That is the show. Can you imagine, like, I would love to see me do stand-up if I knew at the end of this, we're done.
Sure.
Because no accountability, you could just say what you're thinking. This is what makes, I'm not trying to be funny, like old people at the end of their lives entertaining if they can get there.
Well, that is the weird thing. Like when people think about death, or they go, an asteroid's coming to Earth, what we do, and they go like, it'd be chaos because they try heroin, or they do like crazy. But it's more like, no, you already started this thing, and now it's the last time you get to do that thing. How would you do it?
Yeah.
Like there's an internet meme that's like, and they say it's from the movie Sandlot, but it's not in the movie Sandlot. But it's like, there was this time that you went out to play with all your friends and you didn't know it was the last time you would do it.
Yikes.
And then it sort of hits you like right there. But so
like the
it's
last
more,
time you pick up your kids.
yeah, or any of the, it's
Because they get too big.
Yeah, right, exactly. So if people are like you're sending this email, you're like, it's the last email you ever send, or you're going to die tomorrow. They'd be like, well, I just wouldn't send the email. So it's like a way of not having to wrestle with like, no, what would you do if you were just fully present in the thing? But I also think the test is good. There's a line in Meditations where Marcus Aurelius says, you're afraid of death because you won't be able to do this anymore. And the this is like fill in the blank. Like, so you're like, oh yeah, I want to live forever, but like you hate what you're doing right now. And so
You are killing it.
yeah. And so if you think about it more like, no, like,
Buddy,
this is
that's-
one of
that's
those
good.
things that makes me want to be alive. That's a good thing.
Yes, yes. I have, again, lunch with Val. I almost said this to her, but I didn't. I'll say it to you. I've been noticing I'll get really stressed out about something. And one of the thoughts that will sort of rescue me is I go, memento mori. I
Yeah.
go, you could die now.
Yeah.
is this how you want to feel when you die? Like,
Oh, sure.
meaning like I'm harping on something.
Right.
I always liken it to my brain is changing TV channels and it's just looking for stuff to freak me out.
Yeah.
It's like, is this going to make you obsessed? Is this going to make you obsessed? Is this going to make you anxious? It's like the horror movie theater in my brain. And I go, it's like I said with the stand-up, don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
Again, it's probably a Sandlot moment, but the Buddha is purported to say, it's attributed to the Buddha, the mistake you make is thinking you have time.
Yeah.
And when I remind myself, let's say I'm on the highway, you could get T-boned right now. Do you really want to be grinding your teeth going like really?
Yeah.
I'm all for feeling our feelings. I'm not
Yeah.
about denial. But how long are we going to let this go on?
Yeah. You're paying with your most precious resource, which is your time.
This.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping not to die, and so much of my time is just being like, super stupid, but also super funny.
That is one thing. So when I was talking to Manu once, the basketball player, and he was saying that, and a lot of the athletes I've talked to after they retired have said something similar, where they're like, I wish I had more fun while I was doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Because the competitiveness makes it not fun. They only get to do it for a short amount of time. And they had this sort of devastating loss in the finals to the Heat, and it was like a funeral in my house. Like, it was so bad. And then he was like, but I just played in the NBA finals. Like, this is the dream. Like, I get to do the thing and I should enjoy it. And I do, like, writing in the past has often been very miserable for me, partly because I felt I had something to prove, or I felt like it was this battle for control with me and like the publisher or whatever, or I had like certain ambitions for it. And then now I feel like I have more confidence, and I'm just like, one place this is manifested with, like, I would have anxiety about deadlines. Like, I have to get it in by this time, which means blah, blah, blah. And then this might sound a little like divish, but I'm like, they'll wait for me. The book will be the book, right? So like, why am I not enjoying it while I'm doing it? Because I'm worried that I might not hit the deadline. And then, by the way, that's actually just taking away time from working on the book. And I probably will hit the deadline. It's just not hitting the deadline is not an existential problem. That's in my head. They don't care. And in fact, if I didn't hit the deadline, they'd be like, how much more time do you need? And so why can't you give yourself that gift now and then just actually do the thing?
Give yourself the love you're waiting for them to give you, because it's all just made up.
Yes.
They're just giving it to, it's a pretend exchange. It's like Bitcoin. Yes. It's not real.
Well, they would say all money is not real.
That's true. Yeah, no, that's right. Bitcoin was founded on the principle that I'm attributing.
There's math in here, so it's more real.
It's more real. That's right. My life was changed. I used to be very anxious about getting to shows on time, because I'd be driving a rental car to a college. And Mike Britt, this comic I worked with, very funny guy, we were traveling together, which was such a gift. I got to see how other more experienced comedians traveled. And we were running late to this show, and he goes, there's no show without us. And I was like, oh my God. And there's no book without you.
Yeah.
It's not arrogant. It's just like, relax. This is why what came to mind when you're talking about your guy wishing he had enjoyed the playoffs or not been like a funeral when they lost. It's like, this is why I think we love movies about like, and I just considered this, if I'm going to make myself 90-year-old Pete is in a deathbed, and it goes like, you can go back and live that day where you interviewed Ryan for the third time on your couch. I would be like, there's Katie. No, I'm not looking at you because you're talking about, like, there's Katie and like there's Ryan. And look at my like I'd be giddy.
Yeah, sure.
This is why we love A Christmas Carol. Like all these things where it's like, if something could just snap us out. I think neurologically we're talking about grooves. I'm like, another podcast.
Yeah, sure.
And again, we're back to that thing. If we knew we were going to blow up after this conversation, but that's what I'm trying to.
It all comes down to just like,
with.
I would just actually show up and be there for it. I wouldn't think about this or that or want it to be a certain way. It would just be what it is.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the place that all philosophy and spiritual traditions are trying to get you towards.
Right.
Certainly meditation.
And speaking of meditation, you do it by doing it over and over and over and literally creating a new habit of being present. I noticed the other night I came home. I had 2 podcasts, and then I drove home, which, as you know, is a longer commute now. So I had been in the car for like 3 hours that day, and then I had like probably 4 hours of podcasting. Then I went home, and I was trying to get home by 6 so Val could go to this dance class. All of that sounds fine on paper, but so I had to go from work mode and driving mode, which isn't the most chill mode, to instantly putting a 4-year-old to bed.
Sure.
And I noticed, because at least, I'll say this about when I'm suffering, at least when I'm suffering, I go, you're suffering.
Yeah.
I'm really, look at you. You can't stop. And what I was doing was, not only do I have to put Leela down, I wasn't just showing up for putting Leela down, which, by the way, I've made this point a million times, is a pleasure if you look at it. She's testing you. She wants to see if you're down to clown, where the boundaries are. And if I knew I was visiting that moment from my 90-year-old deathbed, I would have been, are you fucking kidding me? My 4-year-old daughter? I would have exploded into ecstasy for that opportunity. But I couldn't stop going, this isn't fair.
Yeah.
I'm building a story. I've been working all day. I need, talk about shifting gears, that's really the issue. I need a threshold time. I should have been able to like take a shower. Just a shower, just to like go into down, whatever, but just a sob story. And then I'm going, and when she's down, I still have to do the intro. And then there's this breathing technique we've been doing, and it takes 30 minutes. I'm like, then it's bedtime. And I'm like, that's my fucking day. Immediately, what am I doing?
You're extrapolating.
I'm making a problem through extrapolation.
Yeah.
But like, that's why I find it helpful. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but like, there's a part of us that wants that, or at the very least, I would say, is addicted to it.
Yeah, of course. Well, I remember, this is maybe like 6 months ago or a year ago, I put my oldest down, and there was like a limited amount of daylight. So it's like in the summer, like when I put them down, then I can go like work out after. Otherwise, I have to like work out inside because it's dark. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get to go for a run. And so I get him down, and then like I go outside and I'm like putting on my shoes and getting ready. And then he's like appears, you know, like how they appear after, like it just appears.
And can I say, you know this, if you have plans that hinge on they'll go down easily, they will not go down easily.
Yeah, it was probably an energy thing.
They feel it.
You're trying to like do something, or things aren't set or whatever, you're going to disappear. Anyways, he like pops out, and like, I don't know where it came from, but my first thought wasn't like, God damn it, like I won't be able to do the run, like sharply in the time. I was like, oh, I get to do it again. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's how I should think about all the stuff. Like I get to do it again.
Yeah.
Because it actually is wonderful. And like you said, at the end of your life, you'd be like, I would kill for one more time to do that.
Yes.
And then here it is. And I'm mad because it's interfering with this made up series of events that I'm hoping
that don't even exist.
Yes.
That hinge on things like nighttime and sleep. And they're just like abstractions.
Sure.
We do this all the time. It's like, we went to bed at like 9:30, so I was probably asleep by 9:30 last night. Baby gets up at 5:30. That was plenty of sleep.
Yeah.
5:30. The numbers 530 are making you suffer.
Yeah.
Not how you feel.
Yeah.
Not if you got enough rest. You did, but like your brain, again, is used to it, or
the famous line from the Stoics is that it's not events that upset us; it's our opinion about events.
Yeah.
And so, like
that's it. There's another quote. It's not what happens to us that torments us. It's our thoughts about.
Yeah.
It's probably
it's all the same. It's the idea that like it just is, right? Like when I talk to like hedge funds and stuff, I go like, like a bull market and a bear market do not exist. These are made up things that we've come to describe a made up thing, which is the economy. Like the market doesn't exist either. It's just people doing stuff. And then you've made up a concept, and then you've made up whether it's a good version of that concept or a bad version of that concept, and then you like pull your hair out. But like it just exists. It just is.
It just is, yeah.
And I mean, that's obviously you're not going to be good at trading if you don't understand what these things are. But understanding that they are abstractions should help you actually be better at it, because then you're like, oh, like a hedge fund. What's the difference between like a hedge fund and you're like a value investor? A value investor just needs the market to go up. But like a really great investor can also make money when the market goes down. So there is no positive or negative. Like it just is, and you take advantage of it one way or another. And And that's obviously easier said than done, but like it's the like I need it to be a certain way, or it should be a certain way, or it's unfair if it's a certain way.
Yes.
That's the source of the suffering or the distress, but it does not exist.
I think it's Chinese Zen, or it might be Taoism. It says the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. And I'm just like, oh, that's the whole thing. This is pulled right out of my own thought, my own brain. And I've said it before, but I want to hear your reaction to it. When there was a flight out of Montreal, it was all comedians, and the flight was like delayed, something like 6 hours or something. It was like it was a thick delay.
Yeah.
And it was something like a 6 a.m. flight or something, so none of us had slept.
Right.
So I understand. Some people got mad.
Yeah.
And I remember they were mad at Delta, and I was like, again, like you with your kid, I don't know why that day Buddha Pete showed up, and Buddha Pete was like, there is no Delta. There's this plane.
Yeah, sure.
You could argue that noticing a pattern of reliability or whatever, and employees and a fleet of planes, we agree to call it Delta, but like your bull bear, it's not real. It's just this plane. It's like when you get mad, and if you get mad at the gate
You're going to
agent,
yell at this person
as if
that's their Delta.
Yeah. That's like Equus thinking a horse is, God. It's like you're just picking one point of the thing and being like, you will be Delta.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to think too, like, so that means also like, okay, I'm not going to tell myself this is a bad thing. But then that also means that you have the power to tell yourself it's a good thing. So you could be like, this is a fucking adventure. What are 200 comedians on the same delayed flight? What's that going to look like?
Buddy, we had a great time. And we've both been alive long enough to know you don't even remember the flights that are on time.
Yeah.
The story is the 6 hour delay. And we did have I had fun with a lot of those people.
Yeah.
And I've taken that flight so many times with no problem, and those are gone. They're shredded as they're happening. Maybe we said this last time, but I'd like to call it nostalgia for the present.
Yeah.
If you can somehow have
Nostalgia for the present.
the quality of nostalgia. We love talking about book titles. I have that written down as a possible
Nostalgia
book title.
for the present. That is interesting.
Is it good?
That sounds like one of those Buddhist things that means nothing and everything at the same time.
High praise.
Yes.
Praise. But we're like putting your children down.
Yeah.
If you could be nostalgic for that while
like
it's happening.
You know who Scott Galloway is? He's like a marketing business sort of guru guy. He said this thing to me once that I think about a lot now, which is the sort of same thing, but the opposite of it. He was saying that like he was looking at a picture of his like 8-year-old, and he was grieving his 8-year-old because that 8-year-old's now a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Like that person is gone.
That's right.
He's like, it's still great that he's an awesome 12-year-old, but he's not the 8-year-old anymore.
Yeah.
And the idea that like you'll grieve this moment is really interesting, because then I think it makes you present. It's helped me, like, when you have kids, they're like, they'll be walking soon, and then you're like, I can't wait for him to. You're not only not enjoying the present, you're like fast forwarding and wishing for this other thing that you're gonna miss now, and that's a very weird thing that we do. And so if you're just like, it's sort of is what it is, and like I'm gonna actually enjoy it while it's here. To me is that requires weirdly a kind of an active process, but like is really where it's at.
I completely agree. So you've calmed down. Your son thinking you lost your job came from a lot of effort for you. What were those efforts, and what led to
so I'm doing like a 4 books. I think where it came from is I'm doing a 4-book series. So this is the second one, and then but the way it works is like I'm now midway through the 3rd, and then I have to start thinking about the 4th. So like while one is coming out, I'm starting the other. But just going like, I think having some kind of job security is unique in like my profession, because books are normally like a one-off thing. So you write a proposal, you have an idea for a book, you sell it, then you go make that thing, and then you have to go do that. But like the idea is like, this is what I'm doing for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Like I can have some comfort in it.
You're on the wire now.
Yeah, and I've liked that, where it's like I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then also, I told myself at the beginning, whether this is true or not, but I was like, series take time to develop their audience. So like how the first one does, or even the second one does, is not representative of how the whole thing will do. In fact, you need to finish all 4 to give the whole thing a chance. So then like how the first one did, I didn't really care because I'm writing the second one. How the second one does, I don't, like, obviously I want it to do well, but I don't care that much because I'm working on the 3rd one. So like I've just like, I think I'm just more chill about it because like I'm realizing that I don't feel any pressure to do that stuff, even though the pressure the pressure didn't exist before, but now I found a reason, a story to talk myself out of the pressure. And so I can just sort of be, and I would like to think it's contributing to a better product, but even if the product was, I can safely say it's not making like 100% worse product, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not garbage, but even if it was 20% worse, I would take that trade any day.
Interesting. These are your 3 points.
Yes.
You're shooting 3-pointers now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would trade worse. Yeah, because it's ultimately more sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not going to burn myself out. I'm not going to drive people away. I'm not going to torture myself, you know?
Yeah.
And the whole point is that I want to be able to do it for a long time. Like and especially
You're resting yourself.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't some like biological deadline that is looming the way that there would be for certain professions, I guess.
Sports.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. We're back to what we were just talking about, which is like if you sell 3 books,
Yeah.
there's a real risk of going like, well, shit, the seduction is over. I'll admit that I love the sale. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to not.
There's a rush to it for sure. Yeah.
You want that, and then you burn off that for a while, and then there's the thick of it, and then there's the follow through and all of that stuff. But is there more need to motivate yourself? It sounds like there's less. It sounds like you're good with this coasting or this cruising altitude of 3 books.
I don't know. I don't know. I think if the work is requiring you to be present and connected and like reach some sort of deep insight, I don't know if being like hungry and aggressive and like zero sum is actually the attitude that you want to bring towards it. That's the interesting thing, right? Like, let's say like ego, for instance. Ego probably helps in like the entertainment and adjacent businesses because like you have this need to get out there and be seen and like you'll ask for stuff that you have what?
Sorry, I was trying to get that glare off your face.
You have no right to ask for, you're more shameless, whatever, all this stuff.
Yes, ego.
But then it hurts because the whole point is creating an empathetic connection, like speaking to some part of going inwards and finding something. So like, I just don't know if that sort of like desperation or thirst is the fuel that people want. It's like it's fuel, but it's destroying the engine.
You've done a lot of work, though, to realize that a calm, steady, quiet workspace of self-motivation, it took a lot of, it sounds like, effort and study to realize, step outside of it and go like that thirst, that like drive that most of us are looking for, like the Red Bull feeling is not right. You're trying to enjoy it for its own sake. You're trying to do the work.
I actually think that the other one's easier. Like it's easier to be like, if I don't do this, like
I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
Yeah. Right. Or if I need to do this to prove X, Y, like or like I need to be the best in the world. Like there's it's based on the exchange between Alexander the Great and Diogenes the Cynic, but which is this interesting, unique moment in history where the most powerful, ambitious person in the world, the most insatiable conqueror, repeatedly bumps up against Diogenes, who's not just a philosopher, but he's sort of like in the Buddhist sense, like sort of pushed everything away. Like he sold all his possessions, he wanders the streets. And there's a fictional exchange that I think about it's in one of Stephen Pressfield's books. So it's not real, but so some version of it. I'll tell you the real one after. But he says, like Alexander the Great looks at him, he says, I have conquered the world. What have you done? And he's like, I have conquered the need to conquer the world.
Wow.
And the real exchange is Alexander the Great finds Diogenes and he's like sort of laying there sunbathing and he goes, I'm the most powerful man in the world. What can I do for you? And Diogenes looks at him and he says, you can stop blocking the sun. And so he's like, he just has no need for him whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's like and I'm not saying I'm there at all, but I'm saying it's like, it's easier actually to want to conquer the world
I agree.
than to want to conquer the world and work yourself. Obviously, there's a whole percentage of the population that's like, why would I want to do that? That's never even thought about it. I think the harder thing is like, if you're an ambitious, driven person who's good, who can make a lot doing these different things, to work through that and not be driven by it. That's harder.
Yeah, that's really interesting. This teacher guy named Sadhguru talks about desire. And it's like, even if you, let's say you, Ryan, really think about it too. If you ruled the entire world, everything goes through you.
Yeah.
Ultimate power.
Sure.
However that looks. Just, you could never pay a bill again. You can get all your friends off. You can just wield it however you want. He's like, how long would you rule the world before you'd start looking at the moon? And then if you own the moon, how long before you start looking at Mars? You see it like, I'm not even putting it down. I'm just saying it's the nature of the human condition. Elon Musk.
I should own Twitter.
Yes, exactly.
Because
Although, is that him doing what we were saying at the beginning, picking something that you know is going to kind of go
like
goofy
chaos.
to motivate? Some created chaos.
Interesting.
But it's like, of course he's looking at Mars. Because if you're eating every cake, you go like, I wonder what cake would taste like on a planet that's red or has a different atmosphere or whatever it is. Like, it's just an interesting thing. Isn't the real power? It's not. I'm trying to be too poetic by saying powerlessness, but real power is to have it but not need it, and be small enough to just sunbathe on the beach.
Well, it is interesting because I forget who said it, but there's some guy who was saying like, like it's very comforting to mediocre people to tell themselves that like great people are unhappy, right? Like as a way to not have to do so. But that's what I think is so fascinating about Stoicism, because like when you think about most of the philosophical schools, the people sort of preemptively stepped away from like a certain race or a certain thing, right? They're like, I'm going to go inward. I'm going to seek this sort of spiritual enlightenment. What's so interesting, like Marcus Aurelius isn't just like, oh, he's a philosopher and he's like adjacent to power. He assumes the purple, as they would say in Rome, like he becomes Caesar. Like literally, he's a regular person and then he gets the name Caesar and is the most powerful person in the world. He's worshipped as a god. And he talks in meditations, he says like, I want to avoid being imperialized, like avoid being dyed purple. Like he actually is that. And like meditations is a document where the most powerful person in the world is like sensing themselves looking at the moon and going like, you don't need to worry about the moon. Like he has this, he's not like me going, Alexander the Great, why was he, he could do anything that Alexander the Great did. He has all that power. He could be like, I'm going to conquer this country. I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to change. Julius Caesar renames one of the months of the year. He's like, that's me now. July, that's me now. Like he could do that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, actually. So August is from Augustus. Julius Caesar is July. But Marcus Aurelius' stepfather, the emperor before him, his name is Antoninus Pius. He's offered, who I'm sure you've never heard of, he is offered the chance to name a month after him. And he said, nah, I don't need it. And so like I think it's also the example that he's following. But like it's interesting to think that it's like one of the only times in history where, because typically the people that end up in power are people to whom from day one, power has been the whole thing. Yeah. And so here you have this person who's ambitious and talented and great, but sort of thrust way above what he would ordinarily have been at. And then all the philosophical things are now being tested in a real way. And it's like, does he mean them or not? I'm writing about Harry Truman a lot in the book I'm writing now. And, when Theodore Roosevelt said, when Franklin Roosevelt suddenly dies, this basically like small town farmer who doesn't go to college is president of the United States. And one of like the newspaper writers at the time goes, what an incredible experiment in democracy this is. That just like a regular dude is now the dude. That's
basically
not
the movie King Ralph.
Yeah, that hasn't happened very many times. Yeah. And it would require a pretty incredible person not to be corrupted by that thing.
And it's so shocking to me. It's so foreign that someone would go, we can name a month after you, which still endures today. And they're like, I'm good. Like, imagine if someone offered a president, we'll put you on the 5. We're going to take Lincoln off and it'll be you.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
That would make more sense. You'd be like, too much reverence for Lincoln. But if they're like, we're going to do a $3 bill, it's going to be you.
Well, when Trump was president, when he visited Mount Rushmore.
Of course he came to mind. I was like, I got to be the $1 million bill.
The governor of, is it in South Dakota or North Dakota? I don't know. Whatever. The governor gave him a bust of Mount Rushmore with his face added to it.
No.
And there was no part of him that was like, this is, he like has it. It's like one of his, that's what he wants, right? And no part of him was
I
like,
believe that's South Dakota.
awkward about it, or like, obviously this is too much, you know? It's
I'm
like,
gonna say no.
well deserved.
This is grotesque. I'm not saying it's gross. I'm just saying it's beyond the pale.
He's like, finally, somebody gets it.
That is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Of course it was. Wow. So interesting. I mean, this is a great conversation about why we do anything that we do. But the fact that you have these heroes and so do I. I want to put this to you. This is changing gears a little bit. So as you know, do you talk about where you live?
Yeah, I live right outside Austin.
You live outside of Austin. And when Val and I were moving to Ojai, I was texting you, I was asking you about it and all these different things. It's ended up being the absolute best thing in the world for everybody.
Yeah.
Not just our daughter,
Yeah.
but for me as well. Turns out I'm a real empath. I absorb energy and all that sort of stuff. I'm a sensitive person. So we're all thriving up there. And buddy, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this. I can't wait for your thoughts on this. For someone who spends a lot of time deep in spiritual philosophy, that the only true happiness is not event-based. You have to find the part of you that is made of happiness. We could call this your soul. We could call this awareness, the still quiet place inside. Like, so if you turn all your thoughts down, this is meditation, you'll notice that that's sort of vibrating, that the spring of life inside of you is just fucking fine.
Sure.
Like, it's fine. It's better than fine. It's blissful.
Yeah.
So that is one of my core beliefs.
Yeah.
Then I move to Ojai and I go, I'm 70% happier. What? I honestly, I wouldn't call it a crisis, but Rob Bell, who I love, I was like, Bobby, I don't know what to do. One of my spiritual precepts is that we need a non-circumstantial joy. And here I am. I just did something as simple as moving my body from one place to another place. And it's not just not dipping, it's increasing with appreciation. I was like, I don't know how to reconcile those two things. And he goes, it's a paradox. He's like, both are true. He's like, you need that, and sometimes moving is what you needed. Like,
yeah, I think you're being way too hard on yourself, though, because think about it this way. It's like, you shouldn't lose your temper at people, especially people that you care about. It's easier not to do that when you're not hungry. Like, right? So, like, obviously, there's sort of objectively, like, what's good and bad, or what's right and wrong, and the standards you try to hold yourself to. But, like, it's easier to be good at basketball when you've slept 8 hours. It's harder to do it when you're hungover or you're not in shape or whatever, right? The idea that environmental factors shouldn't contribute to the thing. Like, you should be able to be a great creative, you have to be able to do what you do anywhere. But you should also have, like, an office and a space that is part of a routine that brings it out better and it more consistently, that you're not having to white knuckle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved, you said it in a sentence. It's like, it's easier to not lose your temper. And by the way, we got to talk about this. My dad texted, this is so, how funny is it, Ryan? My dad, we talk about stuff like this all the time. My dad texted me today to get in touch with the son of some friend of his who's in LA. By the way, the last time I did that, it ended up being a lovely conversation. What I don't like about it is there's no ask.
Yeah.
There's no no. There's no no on the table.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, my wounded child self has learned that the quickest way to end this, and I'm going to call it an altercation. I don't think it is to my dad.
Yeah, sure.
To me, it feels like this. I completely blow it out of proportion because of whatever is going on inside of me. And I overreact, and I'm like, the quickest way to end this is to just do it.
Yeah.
But I say to Val, I'm like, it's like a PTSD thing. I go right into like a fear place. We were having lunch at a restaurant nearby, and I was just like, all these people can go. Meaning, fuck all these people. Everybody here. Like, I went from Pete, what I like to think of as Pete, to like, fuck everybody, fuck everything, I hate everything, I don't even want to do this podcast. Like, I had to work through it. And I was like, how funny is it, dude, that it was the day you were doing the podcast? He doesn't do that very often. And by the way, I love my dad, I understand. But like, the dynamic is like, to me, you do this because you're my son. Like, you have to do this for me because I'm asking.
Sure.
And I'm just like, I would shit in my hat if it just included, I'm sorry to be a bother.
Yeah. Especially when it's probably like the thing that, by the way, when I wasn't good or highly paid at it, you saw no value in whatsoever.
This is
you know
where,
what I mean?
Yes, yeah,
there's
for sure.
There's a sort of like, now that it's good for you socially with your friends, it's something you care about. And but when I was not good at it, there was all sorts of judgment.
Yeah, that for sure. And also, like, now it's a commodity that you can trade.
Yeah.
That you go, he's busy, but I can make him show up. And the times that I have not, forget it. It's like the worst thing in the world that I could do. Like really almost like it's childlike.
Why do you think that is?
It's just because there's that muscle in our family was just never exercised at all. So if I go like, you know what, Dad? No, it would just be like, oh, okay, like almost like silent treatment. Like really, he knows that if he does nothing, my own guilt will flare up so hot that I'll give in. And I hate what I'm telling you right now. Yeah. That's why I just do it.
Yeah,
because I'm like, I feel powerless and upset. And I'm like, how are you with all this stuff? Are there updates, family stuff? Yeah,
I mean, I've definitely found like my marriage is better the less I am in contact with my parents. And actually, I would say I didn't find this. I was informed that this is the case
by your wife.
Yes, because
she's doing the good Tom Brady.
Yeah, she's going,
you need to draw this boundary.
Yeah, so the energy is just different, and yeah, I'm sure it's a million reasons why, but that is a real, to go to your point about like, I should be happy wherever I live, but you can live wherever you want. So you live there and it's better. But the hard part is like, okay, if your life is better without certain people in it, is your obligation to having a better life, or is your obligation to your parents or to this, like, how you hate your boss? Should you keep going to that job, or should you get a different job?
How much are you clinging to the identity that you're not the kind of person that like slowly backs away from your family?
Yeah.
And those are the commodities on the table. Sorry to keep saying commodities, but it's like one of them is like your feeling of being a good son.
Yeah.
Like, so there probably is a part of me that's like, look, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And if I'm in my best possible mood, maybe I'd even do that. Or there's like, Val and I, one of the reasons we moved to Ohio was our little mantra was good life when. Like, have you noticed that like people are just like, oh, I'll just, we'll do that later, we'll do that later, we'll do that later, we'll do that later, we'll do that later. And then you're dead. And then you're dead, Ryan.
I've seen that twice in my life. Because, so first off, we moved out to Texas. We live in the country. We have like a farm. We have some animals and stuff. And people go, I've always wanted to do that.
Yes.
As if there's some like...
force field.
Yeah, or like test you have to pass or whatever, right?
Yes.
Like I guarantee you, it certainly was then, the farm costs less than your apartment in New York City. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you could do it. You just don't want to do it.
Val and I talk about this all the time, not to be the special people that got out, but we notice that there's a certain, we call it the spell, where like there's a spell has been cast that keeps a certain choice. And Ojai is also pricier. Being outside of Austin is pricier. But these things don't have to be in these chic areas.
Yes.
But we get that too, is like, you got out, you did it. I've always thought about doing that. Or we get the extreme outright mockery. Like, why would you do that? People will say, I don't understand how you could drive an hour and a half into the city, and then in the next sentence tell me that they drove an hour to their kid's school and an hour back.
Right.
And I'm like, the drive to my daughter's school, I'm going to tell you how to go. Ready? Left, right, it's on the left.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a 10-minute drive.
Sure.
And I'm excited to talk to you about this.
Well, since I saw you last, I opened a bookstore in like the little
I
town that
know,
we're
I
in.
saw you
And the
put
same
up-
thing. People are like,
yes.
oh, I've always wanted to do. And again, that was harder to do than opening, than starting, than moving to the country. But again, it's like it's a thing literally anyone could do. There's not. There's no like certification.
Yes. Nobody's going to ask for a badge.
The cost of doing it is not any more than the office space you are paying for you and your 7
That's
employees.
exactly what I'm saying. The hour to and from your kid's school is the same hour and a half that it would be to and from a small town.
Yeah.
But like, what is it? Is it cultural indoctrination or I couldn't tell
I think
you.
it's fear. I mean, it's like they want to do it, but they don't want the cost of it potentially not working.
Yeah, the embarrassment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you don't want to do something different because then you have to explain why you did it, and then it's weird that you did it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, what if it doesn't work? Like although this is how a friend of mine lives in Austin, and then they decided to move home to be closer to his parents in somewhere in the Midwest, and they hated it, and they moved back. And I actually like really respected it.
Yes.
That they admitted that they didn't like it and just did it. You know what I mean? Like they didn't just be like, I guess we live here in this place that we hate forever.
I have a joke. You're going to love it, I think. It's about how my dad was on Uber and he was trying to tip the Uber driver. And I said, Dad, just give me the phone. I'll do it for you. Because he was just pushing buttons willy-nilly. I took the phone. He'd swapped to Uber Eats. And there were, it was 36 steamed vegetable dumplings in his Uber Eats cart. And one more mash. They would have been delivered to the Italian restaurant. That's all fun. It's a good story. But the part that really hits me in the heart every time I do it is I go, and my dad is a proud man. That means he would have eaten 36.
Sure.
He would have been like, hey, dipping them in marinara. This is a good combo, good mashup. Because rather than,
Sure.
and it can actually make me a little emotional because I know I can be this way too, rather than saying like, Peter, I'm confused a lot of the time. Technology is overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
And I really made a mistake. I don't eat vegetable dumplings like that. That's just not on the menu.
Of course.
So your guy or girl that moved to the Midwest and came back,
Yeah.
that, I'm going to say it, that's delicious. That's something you don't see enough of. Is just, I say this all the time, but I want to say it to you. There's a gaming design company that has a slogan, they put it on the wall that says fail faster.
Yeah.
And it's just like, failure's good.
Yeah.
You get so much data from failing. Just do it faster. Go and move. In fact, people should have failed faster outside of Austin before it became the hot spot of entertainment in the country.
Well, the weird part was when I was thinking about doing it, a bunch of people were telling me that I shouldn't do it, but I that wasn't super persuasive to me. But I was like, I'm going to call Tim Ferriss. Tim, if I shouldn't do it, Tim will have a very good reason why I shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I think you should do it. And I was like, oh, this is very surprising to me. And why? And he was like, he said, how are you going to know whether you like running a bookstore unless you've run a bookstore? And I was like, oh, he's like, so just
You're like
say,
the movie
he's
You've
like,
Got
don't
Mail?
say I'm doing it forever.
Yeah.
Just say I'm going to try this thing.
Yes.
And if you see it as an experiment, then there is an outcome either way. And you're not like, your identity isn't tied to it has to work or it doesn't have to work. And that was actually his advice when I was thinking about starting a podcast. He's like, just do like 10. Say I'm going to do 10. And then if you like doing it after 10, continue doing it. But if you don't, you have an out.
You just said a mouthful, or Tim did, and you're saying the same thing, which is like when you tie your identity to the thing, in your mind, I think it becomes life or death.
Yeah.
It's like if you say, I am a success, and then you fail, then you're humiliated.
Yeah.
If you say, I'm an adventurer, I'm a fucking hobbit.
Yeah.
I open bookstores. I mean, I have to think it's not a prudent, I don't think a business investor would be like, bookstore.
Yeah. No,
Ryan,
it's certainly not a get rich quick scheme.
I see your name written in gold.
Yeah.
Tell me, what did you just say?
It's certainly not a get rich quick scheme. Like it's like a terrible idea.
But you love bookstores like me.
And I did it in a way that it wasn't. It was easier than maybe people would think it would be, and it's actually been amazing. And like, my kid goes to school down the street, and like,
What's it
it's
called?
my
Give it a
office.
shout out.
The Painted Porch. It's in Bastrop, Texas.
Edit that out. The Painted Porch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you put up some wonderful solidarity stuff during the reproductive marches and all that stuff. I thought that was really cool. And
No, and it's actually really cool because it's like, it's because I'm not doing it because I wanted to make a lot of money and just do whatever I want. And I don't have to, like, I have a lot of empathy for all the other businesses on the street who are like, yeah, if we ask people to wear a mask during a pandemic, they won't come in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want people to come in. So like people coming in is a mild inconvenience. And so like I get to make that. But if you think that's actually been helpful for me too, it's like very rarely am I doing the thing for financial reasons, right? So then it should make it easier to do the right thing when it costs you money because you already decided that you weren't doing it for financial reasons. But if you don't have that clarity, then you default to the financial reasons.
We're back to what we're saying. It's what if the theater blows up at the end of the show?
Yeah.
It's like, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it for its own sake.
You're not keeping anything in reserve or not trying to upset like this person or that person. If you're like, well, I fucking hate this person and I think they suck. I don't want to tell them though, because like that would hurt my chances for some other thing.
You're talking about liberation. It's funny, you're talking about it in a business way. But spaciousness, inner spaciousness is huge. I was just doing a podcast this morning. I was on my friend Andrew Michon's podcast, A Podcast But Outside. Have you heard of it? Edit that out.
It was outside?
It was outside.
Was it walking or was you just
You
sitting
sit at a table and you talk to the people that come by. It was fun.
like strangers?
Yeah, strangers.
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. I don't want to blank on what I was saying. What were we
You're
talking about?
recording this podcast?
This podcast?
No, that podcast.
Are we doing this one, Lou?
I think so, yes.
Doing it for its own sake. Oh, you realize, I forget why I brought that up, but like when you're not spacious, you have all these bumpers. It's like operation. It's like when I started doing if you do a commercial campaign, well, there's a brand you can't slander. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's why I brought up Andrew Michon. At the end of it, somebody made a very offensive little joke just to me. I had never met them before. Sometimes this happens as a comedian. They just want to say the weird thing because they know you're a comedian and you'll be fine. And I was like, that's cool. That's a type of, I don't care if you come to my store or not.
Yeah.
Like you can't, I'm not saying you can't offend me. I'm sure there's something you could say that would offend me. But like for the most part, you can just say something untoward and I'm just going to laugh. And I like that quality of being a comedian. So you're bringing that, forget about business. It's a spacious thing to be able to be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You don't want to be beholden. How many masters do you have?
Yeah.
And can we whittle that number down?
Because customers think it's like, oh, the customer's always right. But like, that's only true if you have leverage over the business owner, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't, but I think people think like, they're like, I'm going to bite my tongue. I'm not going to do, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to get whatever. But then when I'm more successful, then of course, like I'll be able to be more free. I'll have that spaciousness. But actually the opposite is true because when early on you could have done whatever you wanted because it wouldn't cost anything. And now you're like, okay, but if I piss this person off, there's a monetizable amount. And I was actually just, I don't know her name. So
this is the catastrophe of success. Yeah.
You think it would be freeing, but it's actually constraining. I was reading some piece, like the AT&T girl? She's like in all the AT&T commercials.
Yeah.
I don't know her name, but I'm sure she makes an absolute fortune. There's so many commercials. But I was reading some piece, and she's just like talking about an abortion that she had. And I was like, they could not want her to be talking about. So whatever you think about about abortion, like I was just struck by the courage of like the ordinariness of like she's not like an actress or an actor in the sense that like she's making her money based on like her fans. Like if like the 5 people that make that decision at AT&T decide like we don't want that heat, like that gravy train is over.
That's right.
And at the same time, I read this story once about Lyndon Johnson. He's becomes president. He's trying to
Lyndon B. Johnson?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, I just know
Baines Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson. He has a barbershop.
I have a barbershop. It's a Carter story, not Lyndon Johnson story. But anyways, he starts doing this civil rights legislation, and they go, I think this would be better to wait till the second term or something. And he goes, what the hell's the presidency for? And the point is, like, what do you have it for?
That's right.
If you're not going to use it for that thing.
Val and I just did a podcast, and for some reason I was just a little more timid, and I caught myself not wanting. Some joke about Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan is huge. Yeah, it wasn't even mean. It was just kind of like pointing out that he shoots his own food or something. And then there was something else that came up, and something came over me where I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Make fun of Joe Rogan. Just do it. Like, what is the point of being a clown if you're not going to clown around?
Yeah. And the reality is he probably doesn't care at all.
He wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I just told you the whole thing about being a comedian. And it wasn't me. Anyway, let's go to the mid-rolls, speaking of all these ads and stuff, and we'll be right back. And then I'm going to ask Ryan about ghosts, psychics, and unexplainable weird things that I don't think we've ever talked about before. So we'll be right back to talk about really weird stuff.
Pardon the interruption, weirdos. This episode is brought to us by our friends at Next Evo Naturals. As you guys know, I love CBD, but not all CBD brands are created equal. And if you've ever taken it and wonder, is this even absorbing, or is this ever going to kick in? Is it going to be fast acting? I mean, that's a problem. If you've ever wondered whether or not your CBD was working, that means it probably wasn't. But Next Evo Naturals developed Smart Sorb technology. Sounds like something I would say as a joke. Is that Smart Sorb? It's Smart Sorb. Smart Sorb technology, clinically proven to help your body absorb CBD 4 times better than regular CBD oil, because oil doesn't just mix with your water-based body. It works faster too, and when you feel stress coming on, you won't waste time wondering, is this doing anything? Is this working? I just had my parents visit and my Next Evo samples came in. I was so excited to try all of their different products, but their stress gummies that have adaptogens and this Smart Sorb CBD in it was an absolute lifesaver. Now I don't just take it when I'm stressed out during that visit. I actually take it every day as a part of my daily maintenance to keep things even and keep things just a little bit rounder on the edges. That's what I like to think that Next Evo does, is it just smooths out the edges of your stress and helps you ease into your day. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Smart Sorb technology obviously is changing my relationship with CBD. It improves CBD's ability to be absorbed. That's a key thing. Getting into your system in as little as 10 minutes. Most CBD oil found in tinctures, gummies, and capsules achieve between 2% and 10% absorption, which means more than 90% of what you think you're getting is actually being wasted. That's why Next Evo Naturals is here to save the day. They're scientifically formulated to deliver more CBD in a way your body can actually use, and fast. Proven 29 times better absorption in the first 30 minutes. So help fight stress with Next Evo Naturals Stress CBD Complex with ashwagandha, clinically proven to reduce stress by 70%. I can attest to that. This was what saved my butt this whole past month, to be honest. Ashwagandha and CBD are a powerful combo, working together to target the source of rising stress hormones like cortisol. Next Evo is the only brand that combines a patented natural whole plant ashwagandha that's 8 times more powerful than regular ashwagandha, and their 100% U.S. hemp-derived Smart Sorb CBD is 4 times better absorption than standard CBD. So this is the next level, guys. This is the one to try. If you've been dragging your feet on the CBD train, Next Evo Naturals is the one to do. Get to the root of stress, and with the Stress CBD Complex from Next Evo Naturals, for up to 25% off subscription orders of $40 or more, use promo code WEIRD at nextevo.com. That's NEXTEVO.com. Promo code WEIRD, and show your support of this show. We're also brought to us by our friends at Adam and Eve. Listen up, guys, girls, everybody. Who wants better sex? That's everybody. The best way to get started is to go to adamandeve.com right now. Adam and Eve is offering 50% off just about any item, and more than that, Adam and Eve wants to make your life easy. They're offering discreet shipping, as your privacy is a priority, plus free shipping on your entire order. That's free and discreet shipping. Doesn't matter how much you spend or what you buy, all will be packaged and sent discreetly for free. So bring more pleasure and satisfaction into your bedroom. Just go to adamandeve.com and select any one item. It could be an adventurous toy or just about anything you desire. Just enter code WEIRD at checkout and you'll receive 50% off almost any item. And when when you do, you'll also get free shipping off your entire order. And when you when you enter offer code WEIRD, that's WEIRD at adamandeve.com. Weird. This is an exclusive offer specific to this podcast, so be sure to use this code WEIRD to get not just the discount, but also the 100% free shipping with code WEIRD. Thank you to Adam and Eve for your support of the show. All right, everybody, let's get back to Ryan Holiday.
So do you have to do the ads in front of me right now?
No way. Dude. We're already
so
back.
Weird.
We're already back.
So
In fact, that's the first thing you said after the. No, on Corolla, he'll go like, stamps.com.
Well, he's like there's the teleprompter in front of you. It's a whole thing.
There's part of me that envies it because he has a team. You know that is like a streamlined. I'm not looking to you, Katie, to be like, why don't we do that? I'm just saying that's a
radio.
staff.
This
that
is a podcast.
someone. He doesn't even know what the ad is for, and he's just like, apparently I love stamps.com. And he just does it in front of the guest. And I just sit there like a schmuck. Ooh.
Do you ever do a podcast and they do your intro in front of you? That's the worst.
I don't like
the worst.
it. Nobody wants to
I've never
hear
done
it.
that in person one where they do that, but it's like, I don't need to hear this.
Yeah, but when you do speaking events and stuff, if people are like, this guy's a genius, don't do it.
It's
don't
not
say
important.
that.
It's not important at all. Just let me go up there and do the thing.
I completely, but it can hurt if they're just like, this guy's one of the most gifted speakers. Or if they say about like, this is a comedy legend, and then they're like, no one knows who I am when I come out. It's like, I think we would see him.
I had a super bad version of that recently. Like, because of the intro thing, they play a video before I talk usually. Like a video is like some news clips or whatever. And I gave a talk. They don't always play the video. And they were like, and today our speaker is Ryan Holiday. And get up there. And then they played the video as I stood there. Oh. And I had to.
No.
Yeah.
Just playing over your huge.
Just I
Ryan Holiday, one of the big, fastest growing talents, owns a bookstore, wants you to wear a mask.
The worst. It was so bad.
Yeah,
it's
the opposite. There's a reason. Show business. It's a show.
Yeah.
Let's do it like a show.
Well, you're like, oh, I had to do the corporate gig, and that's like different. All my gigs are corporate gigs, right? Like, which is nice because the audience isn't my problem. Like, I don't have to bring the audience. If I show up at a thing and there's no seats, it's like, obviously, I'm empathetic to the host, but that's a them problem. Like, I was paid to talk at your thing. You had to bring the people there.
That's right.
Or all the employees had to come. It's your thing. But the flip side of that is that they're not actually there for you at all. But
well, with comedy, they're not there for you either. Like usually you're like the one I did. By the way, it wasn't like a catastrophe. It just wasn't what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Like laughs all the time. It was like sporadic laughs.
Oh, that's what you're used to? Just always laughter?
No, not always, but at least when you go like, and let me tell you, that was a big old booty, and no one laughs, and you're just like, it's like a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling when everyone knows what you're going for and it's not happening.
Yeah,
and you could tell them that it's like, it's noon and we're in the middle of a corporate award show.
Yeah.
Nobody understands.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is one last thing on that. Comedy clubs work on the idea that the audience is primed to be a comedy audience.
Yeah,
but if it's just a thing that's happening already, and then you come in as like the other type of blood cell and you're just like, hey! I've said this before, but the feeling from the crowd was, why are you telling us this?
Sure.
I'm like, my wife and I, like, they're just like, we don't understand why you think we care. At a comedy club, you can say anything because they're like, we bought a ticket to hear about the comedians.
The weirder one for me will be like the CEO is a huge fan.
Yeah.
And then because of the CEO, they got to pick who comes to the company retreat.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you're really there for one person.
That's right.
And then everyone else is like, why are we here?
An audience one, yeah.
Yeah. And then they're eating it up. And then these other people are just like, what is that? But it's their business. Their name is on the.
You only have to please that one person.
Yeah.
Which I've done the opposite. I've done shows like that and I like roast the CEO a little bit and everyone loves it. And I'm like, I don't know if I played that the smartest I could have played. Because it's not Joe in sales that goes, you know who we should have? It was the CEO. But actually that company ended up having me back, so it was all good. What about this? Have you ever almost died?
If I ever almost died? I don't think so.
Come on. You were a kid and the riptide took you. That time you were sleepy at the wheel.
I mean, I'm sure there's been things like that, but they haven't stuck with me where I'm like, that was a near-death experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I tend to just
keep moving.
keep moving.
Keep
Have you?
moving. Oh, yeah. I remember when I was a kid, I was walking on, nobody's ever turned around on me, actually. I was walking on the beach with my dad, and it was one of those times where just like out of nowhere, a huge wave.
Oh, rogue wave?
Came and hit us. And he said he gripped onto me for dear life. So, you know, you take the good with the 36 dumplings, and he held on.
He's been calling in that favor for a long time.
See, the weird thing is that he saw that as like, now you owe me. You know? But he held on to me, and when the wave cleared, I just was Marvel's The Sandman. Like I was head to toe.
Oh,
you couldn't even see me. And I remember going to the shower and like washing it off, and everybody was staring at me. That was what I don't really remember very much about getting hit by the wave, but I remember everybody in the men's room being like, what happened to it? Because it looked like someone had like cemented me basically. So yeah.
Wow.
I almost croaked there. And there are other times when I was little. I remember confidence being like a tricky cocktail for a child.
Yeah.
I feel like I was an invincible boy. There were times when I would be watching the traffic pattern and I was like, if you just run real fast now, you could make it. You know, like, yeah, and that is true.
Yeah.
But hold your kid's hand is all of it. Because my dad, again, in that situation, was holding my hand. I was like, what are you doing? And I was like,
Oh, you were starting to go for it?
yeah, because I wanted to impress him.
Oh,
I was like, he's waiting for like it to be really clear.
Yeah.
Like boring clear. And I'm like, I know how to do this. Just go now. So there's two that come to mind. Plus, I went to the Amazon and stuff and like eating weird things. And like I was probably inches from tarantulas constantly and just like strange
horrible.
poisonous spiders. Yeah, no, we would walk into the river. They told us not to, and we would walk into the river because we didn't want to wait for a canoe to canoe us out to where we would bathe, and would just walk through. And I think the reason why they were like, I think that was the bathroom. I think we were walking through like the village
So you
toilet.
could have died of like cholera or something?
Absolutely. And they were warning us like, don't pee in the river because there are bugs that'll swim up the stream of your pee.
How old were you when you were just ignoring this pretty
17.
basic safety advice?
Yeah. And we would go in, and me and Carl, he was a little butterball, pale kid, and he looked like Dennis the Menace, would walk in and would just go sealing it, meaning pressing our butt cheeks together, as if that would prevent.
Oh, sealing it. Got it.
Seal it. Tight butt. So yeah, that's about 28 times that come to mind that I almost died. Let me ask you this, kind of going back to the Ohio outside of Austin thing, are you still enjoying it? Because I remember when I told you, do you remember this? I was like, we're going to Ohio, and you were like, your daughter will love it. And I remember being like, is he fucking with me? Like, yeah, man.
Like you thought like
Your daughter
she'll
will
like
love
it
it.
and you'll hate it?
Yeah, I thought maybe you were hinting at like, look, take it from a guy who's been under an apple tree for too long.
I see what you're saying. No, our kid, like, we ended up having to get a house in town, in the little town that the bookstore is also, because our kids are like wild animals.
Yeah.
Like, because 3 years, like, because of already growing up on the farm and then growing up on the farm during the pandemic, they were just like,
Yeah.
they're like, we went over to someone's house, like we now have to have discussions, especially when we took them on a plane, where it's like, this is a place where you pee in the bathroom. Like, this is a place you have to wear clothes.
This isn't a pale, naked place.
Yeah.
You need to pee in the toilet. The toilet.
And then, no, they're like, are you sure? Like, this is like a thing, because they're just used to just doing whatever they want, wherever they want.
My daughter is a little bit that way.
Yeah.
She at least asks. She goes, can I go poop here? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
There's part of me that's like, look, the poop on the lawn times. I actually have this is going to sound fake. I have a fond memory of taking a poop on the lawn once. And I was just like, that's it, man. Talk about liberty and
Here
spaciousness.
at this house?
Yeah, it was earlier today. But it was a very fond memory. No, as a little kid who I called myself the Naked Cowboy, and I'd wear my gun belts, but nothing else.
Sure.
And a log on the lawn. So we're almost done. I know you're probably doing a lot of press. Why don't we talk explicitly about the new book?
I don't have to be anywhere till 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just hit. Let's
Yeah.
let's talk about the new book. Discipline is
Destiny. So courage is calling is the first one because the cardinal virtues are courage, temperance, justice, wisdom. So this
and
is the
temperance is.
I decided to write about discipline because I think temperance, one, just as a concept, it seems somewhat limiting.
Yeah.
But two, what they meant by temperance was like Marcus Aurelius in Meditations says discipline more often than he says temperance. Because I think temperance is like, what's the right amount of a thing? Which is important. You have to know what the right amount of a thing is. But like, I know what the right amount of things are. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
It's like doing them is the hard part. Like
Right.
That's what requires
It's
the
like what
self-discipline.
my doctor just was like. I did a brain scan. They're like, you should exercise cardio 45 minutes 5 times a week.
They
That's
found
what
from your brain scan that you need more cardio.
Yeah, because this shot. Katie and I were just talking about this. I got my brain scan for ADHD. That
Your brain is fat.
what's that?
Your brain is fat.
Actually, your brain is mostly fat. That's just true.
No, I'm saying you have an overweight brain. They're like, you just need to exercise.
Hilarious. Would like to see you get that down.
Yeah.
But the part of my brain that is depressed, like they were like, this is this part that would light up if you were depressed. And I'm not depressed, or I should say, I don't experience depression.
Yeah.
But they're like looking at your brain, the area that is associated with depression is like really lit up. They were like, to ward that off, you should exercise.
Oh.
They said 45 minutes, 5 times a week, cardio. And then they said, this I thought was very interesting, that Prozac and exercise 5 times a week are indistinguishable chemically.
Oh.
Isn't that
Do
interesting?
you have a pool at your place in Ojai?
We do have a pool. Are you a
Do you
swim?
I think
We
swimming.
were just talking about this.
Swimming is, I think, especially if you're not someone that likes exercise, I think is the most magical form of exercise.
Tell me everything.
No screens.
Yes.
They're like, if you've ever been in a sensory deprivation tank,
Of course.
swimming is a version of that. I mean, there's more senses going on, but like
You're weightless.
You're weightless. You can't hear. You're seeing. You can only see like directly in front of you because of how you're looking, and you just get in this zone. I think it's very magical.
Yeah, and how, because I just sent myself an email. I'll show you, not that you don't believe me. But I wrote, just try swimming with a timer, because I don't like counting laps. I find that monotonous.
So if you get the Apple Watch,
That's what she said.
you can pick the length. I used to swim, but the part of my brain that was thinking about counting laps and then did I mess up? Did I cut myself short? That was too much. So this, you just check every once in a while and you're like, oh, okay, I've got 15 more laps or whatever. I like that a lot.
It counts the laps?
It counts the laps for you. If the only flaw is it does not count kickboard laps.
She just said this.
Oh, it does. Wow, that's huge. Yeah, it steals your kickboard laps, which is the only, you're only doing the exercise for the fake digital points anyway, obviously.
We were just talking about this.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Literally the same conversation. But you find it to be, because I got to do it.
Yeah.
It's like a long pool.
Yeah.
So you could get like a satisfying,
Yeah, like the pool at
unencumbered
my
lap.
house is like the most first. It's only 9 yards, and so like
You're back and forth.
It's too much, but
It's
the
pong.
swimming is the best. Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely going to give it a whirl. Where were we? Exercise. Do you remember? Oh, brain scan.
Yes.
Depression.
About why you need to exercise. That's
Why I
right.
need to exercise.
And then we were talking about discipline or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so I know. Yeah, thank
Yes.
you.
Oh yeah,
You're
knowing
now-
what you should
you're
do.
now hosting the
and
podcast.
and then doing it.
I know that's
Yeah.
what I'm supposed
Sure.
to do, but how am I supposed to do that? Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's usually the opposite. It's like I love to run and swim, and I want to do some form of strenuous exercise every day. If I'm like not feeling well, or if I'm tired, or if like I haven't eaten or whatever, it's harder for me to be like, that is a bad idea. You should rest today. Like the
Yeah.
load management thing. All the chapters of my books are almost always mostly the
Talking
things
to
I'm
yourself.
talking about myself. But yeah, like to not do it because it's a bad idea, and that the restraint to be like, hey, I'm gonna do this way. That's harder for me, but.
I'm the opposite.
It seems like a humble brag, though. Like, oh, my thing is
no.
I just work too hard.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I'm a perfectionist. Yeah.
I just care so much.
Knowing when to go home, that's my biggest flaw. Like it's hard. I lose track of time. Just get in a flow state working here.
No, I think you would like swimming though. It's
Yeah.
very magical, and it's like super good exercise also. But it's
And good mental health, clearly.
yes.
And you don't get sore. Katie just told me you don't get sore when you swim. Or
yeah.
you get sore.
No, not really. No, it's really good. And then I get it's meditative too, because like you're just you're not like on a run. You're like, oh, what's that? Where am I? You're just
Right.
like it forces you to zone out very quickly.
That's why I'm thinking if I do it with a timer, sorry if this is a snooze, everybody, but it's almost done. Doing it with a timer and not counting, because I don't like counting laps. I'm going like 1, 2, 3. It brings the other side of my brain in, to be honest. But if there's just a timer going, absolutely love it. And that and cold therapy, which everybody knows.
Yes, I was going to thank you. I got that cold plunge.
You did?
They sent me one.
Oh,
And,
cool.
I've only used it like 4 or 5 times because it just came. But I love it. It's
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. It totally shocks. It's so like, you're talking about being present. It forces you to be present.
That's what I call it.
Yes.
Forced meditation.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Katie. I'm so embarrassing. I get all lit up about this. But you can't do it if you're not present.
Yeah.
And you can't do it if not only do you have to be present, but you have to be positive present. Meaning you have to remember to smile. You have to hold the word yes in your mind. All of this stuff. And that's how you started your day. Like, come on.
Right, because if you're sitting in there and you're like, this is awful, this is awful,
You're
this
out.
is awful,
You'll be out.
or you'll get out, or it just makes the time go slower.
It's the worst.
So you have to be like,
Exactly right
Yeah.
where you are. What was I going to tell you? The other
what's
thing.
the company? It's Plunge? Right?
Yeah, it's thecoldplunge.com/weird, I believe, or weird at checkout. Yeah, I absolutely love that. Shocking the system, overriding it, resetting your day too is another big reason why I do it. But anyway,
Before I do a talk, now that I have the cold plunge, I'll do it. Before I do a talk, like
Cold
when I'm
shower.
showering, I do the shower, like the last part of it. To me, it's like it's the like, I'm in charge
Yeah.
of the cranking it.
Yeah.
And then it's you just feel different when you step out of it.
that's old Timmy Ferriss. When I did, I had to do 2 weeks alone in an apartment in Montreal for Home Alone. So I was alone for 2 weeks, and I listened to a lot of Tim Ferriss, and he said, if you don't do a cold shower in the morning, every time, I don't know if this is true, but he was like, if you do it, all you'll see are solutions, and if you don't do it, all you'll see are problems.
That's right.
And he thought there was something neurological and physiological to that. And it's what you're saying. It's electing to do something you don't want to do, and especially in the morning. Oh, this is what I was going to tell you. It's the best learning curve thing ever, meaning you just got it, right?
Yeah.
So let's not macho each other, but I'm just saying when I started at 60 because that's as high as it can be and still get the
60
benefits.
degrees.
60 degrees.
Okay.
And then you do 60 and it's brutal. Then the next day you do 60 and it's okay. Then the third day you do 60 and it's too warm and you start lowering it.
Yeah.
We just moved, as you know, and mine is at 39 now, which is as low as it goes. So the first time I got in at 39, I got in the water, 40 seconds I was out. I had to get out.
Sure.
Like I literally was like, I don't know how I ever did that. Next day, 2 minutes. It was fun. Like what I'm saying is if you want the feeling of getting better at something, cold exposure is the way to go because your body's
There's
just
multiple. You can either crank the temperature or the time.
Yes.
And so you have multiple notches to make it harder or
That's right.
push yourself. But you can see exercise that way. That's why people like exercising.
Is that right? You looked at
Yeah.
Katie.
You're like, how fast did I do the swim? How many laps did I do?
Yeah.
This is why weightlifting is so addicting for people because it's so numbers based. Like
Yeah.
how many sets?
Yeah.
What's my PR? But for running, it's like, how far did you go?
Yes.
You know, it's
I hear you.
that.
Have we talked? I don't think we have. I just got a tonal. Do you know what a tonal is?
That's the screen that you
It's the
work
screen
out in
with
front
the
of?
arms. Yeah, the screen with the arms. So I've been doing weightlifting almost every day now. And I'm telling you, Val and I were laughing. I got like a vein in my bicep. I'm not going to show it to you. I've never been a vein bicep guy. You have veins in your bicep, don't you? You son of a bitch. But anyway, I also find myself, everybody knows I'm going to say this, but I want to hear what you have to say. Upping my testosterone has the biggest and most noticeable effect on my personality.
Sure.
More than anything. More than too much coffee, more than I didn't eat lunch. I become very just do it, decisive and a little bit shorter tempered. And it's all just because of this jack in testosterone from lifting weights. Have you noticed that?
I haven't like started doing it.
Yeah, you'd have to have just started.
Yeah.
This is new data for
Yeah.
me. I'm
but
the control.
you're shocking the system and you're feeling the benefits of, so you're old enough to be able to perceive it and notice it.
That's right.
Whereas like if you've just been doing it since you were a kid, you're just like, this is life.
That's right.
I feel it when I don't do it though. Like I can go like only a couple days and then it feels like everything's falling apart.
Well, that's why I wonder if Tom Brady, they were saying that a lot of athletes, when they retire, fall into depression.
Yeah.
And it's because they stopped. It's not because they missed the game necessarily. It's because they stopped exercising.
Yeah.
Because we're back to the beginning of our conversation. What was their why? When I was doing How We Roll, I was running every morning, cold, and all these things, intermittent fasting, because you had this reason.
Sure.
Some people,
Because the reason was how I look on camera?
No, how I feel.
Oh.
How I feel. How I look is on there. Actually, those are my reasons on that poster right there. It says Leela, Val. I think that's like live. Yeah, like be alive.
Oh,
for
those
Val.
are your sort of
Heart,
whys?
like heart.
Oh, that's good.
Heart health
Yeah.
is interesting to me. Like I really don't want my heart to just be like,
It's pretty
fuck
important.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty important. Yeah, tell that to like 90%. It sounds so obvious, but tell that to everyone I know growing up. Yeah. And look, and life. Look is vanity.
Sure.
Yeah. So tell me something from the book that is a little bit in the discipline, maybe not a hack, but something that you learned putting it together that people would enjoy when it comes to applying.
I think my favorite story in the book is I got really into Jimmy Carter when I was writing it, and there's this story. He goes to the Naval Academy. He's this sort of like like hot upstart kid. He comes from this small town in Georgia, and he goes to the Naval Academy. He graduates, and then he wants to get in the nuclear submarine service, which at that time you had to be interviewed by this guy named Admiral Rickover, who was the sort of most exacting, like brilliant guy, and he basically invents the nuclear navy. Is a fascinating character. He would personally interview everyone who would serve on a nuclear submarine. So he interviews Carter. It's like this 3-hour interview. They talk about everything. He quizzes him on literature and physics and military strategy and all this stuff. And he goes, "So how did you do in the Naval Academy?" And he goes, "I was like, 58th in my class of 800 or something." And he like expects Rickover to be like impressed. And Rickover has, of course, interviewed everyone, probably the other 50 people in that said class, and every class for like 50 years.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, but did you always do your best?" And Carter sort of instinctively is going to be like, "Yeah, of course." And then for some reason, he like doesn't. And he kind of thinks about it for a second. He's like, "Well, sometimes," he's like thinking to himself, "Sometimes like I coasted, or I didn't ask for extra credit, or I didn't, whatever." And he goes, "You know what? No, I don't think I always did my best." And Rickover just goes, "Why not?" And then he gets up and he leaves the room.
Jimmy Carter does?
No, Rickover leaves the room. He says, "Why not?"
It would
and he
be
leaves the
a
room.
cooler story
That would be
if Jimmy Carter was like, "You know what? Fuck you," and just left.
So he just says, "Why not?" And then that question haunts him for the rest of his life. He's like, that if you're going to do a thing, are you going to... So to me, best and presence is also similar. Like, why are you phoning it in? Why are you thinking like, oh, I'll do it half later, Like, and so this question of like, did you always do your best is to me a really interesting one. And I think it takes discipline, right? Like if you think about like, if you're good at what you do, you can 70% is often enough, right? Like you can half-ass it, you can coast, you figure, like when I'm writing a book, there's things I know I can do to make the book easier. Am I going to do that? Or am I going to, you know what I'm saying? Like there's
Make writing the book easier.
Yeah. Or I'm sure on stage, there's easy laughs you can do. Or are you going to, but is that like actually like hard for you?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the idea of like, I'm always going to show up. I'm always going to do my best. I don't know. That was a story that stuck with me, like thinking through the book. It was really interesting. And then I've just become totally fascinated with him as a person.
I wonder, he's supposed to be a sweetheart too. That's my contribution. He's supposed to be real nice, sweet as a lollipop. I wonder what is the intolerable feeling of doing your best? Is it the vulnerability that maybe you'll do your best and fail?
Yeah, I think it's earnest. They're being earnest is the vulnerable, because then if you care and then someone else says like you suck or doesn't like it, or what if your best is not good enough?
Yeah.
Right? So if you did your best and you were first in your class, it's worked out for you.
Yeah.
What if you did your best and then you're 50th in your class?
Yeah.
Like there's 49 people better than you.
Yeah.
But so you have to decide, like, what race are you running? Like, are you running a race against everyone else, or are you running a race against yourself? And then, so I think it's the vulnerability of it for sure. It's. I remember Robert Greene actually said this to me once. He was saying that teenagers are like simultaneously rebellious and lackadaisical. So you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. I don't care about that. So then you don't have to try, and because if you're like, follow the instructions, stick with the thing, and then try, and then it doesn't work out, that challenges your sense of who you are. I think that's really hard. So to me, it's scary to like, I think, and generationally, I think this is why irony and stuff are so popular, because it's a defense shield against like, who did you read that New York Times piece? I never watched Succession. But who's the main character? Have you watched Succession? No, the one that people don't like.
Kendall Roy.
Yeah, is that
The
right?
method actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that piece that was like basically like sort of making fun of him for like actually caring about his work.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, what a douche. Like this guy like cares.
Buddy. As opposed to a lot of modern stars that so much of their appeal, I would say like Bo Burnham is like the glaring example, the antithesis of this. Like he cares, he's doing it, he's running, he's racing himself so clearly. But Bo and I actually talk about this. A lot of people his age, not just the wrapping paper, the product itself is I don't care.
Yeah.
And people are like drawn to that because earnestness, I'm sure you've heard this, but the importance of being earnest, Oscar Wilde's play, everyone was naming their child Ernest, and the quality of earnestness was so ubiquitous that he was satirizing how we had become obsessed with earnestness.
Yeah.
But here we are like the opposite of obsessed with earnestness. Like Mr. Rogers seems so extra. He's cringe.
Yeah.
He is to be like, what if we were
Well,
kind?
we even
It's
have
like,
all these
shut
words.
up,
like,
weirdo.
Extra, cringe.
Extra and cringe are both
Yeah.
rebellions against earnestness. And you're absolutely right. The guy, what is the guy who played Kendall? Jeremy Strong. People were so mad at him because he was giving a shit.
Yeah.
I remember hearing those stories that he's at some point he's dunked in water. Let's just say that. and for those scenes, he would pour ice cold water on himself, not for a cold plunge, but because he was method. And that got written up as like, what a sports nut, or like, what a nut.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it worked. He did a good job.
Well, there's the internet expression is like, lol, nothing matters. You know, like, but to be like, no, like, I care.
Yeah.
Like, this is important, even though existentially it doesn't, you know, like, but to actually like care is, I think it's hard and it's scary. And then to try, and then to try and then both care and not care about the results. That's the tension, I think.
I agree. And what we're talking about sounds conceptual, but it really is a feeling too, the feeling of trying your best or putting yourself out there. I've told this story a million times, but Ted Danson was on a show and he does a scene. It would be like if we were talking and then I go over to Katie and I'm just like, how could you have done that to me? And then I come back to you and he goes, isn't acting embarrassing? And I was like, oh my God, that's the job.
Yeah.
The money or whatever, or what you're being hired to do is to be talking to a sound guy about living in Ojai and then go, how could you be like, that is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of like sociopathic. Like, I'm going to go over there and cry now. That's what the money is for. It's get over, you're paid to speak places. Get over the weirdness that you're being exalted as like a special person, or you're writing books. Get over the weirdness of saying, you should actually hear my thoughts.
Well, I've had to, like, because writing is, I think, the more introverted of all the sort of entertainment-y related things. And I wouldn't say it's the most glamorous, but it's the least like having to put yourself out there. So it's kind of mythologized as this like, you know, it's like Hemingway at the typewriter with a cigarette. Like, it's cool because it doesn't seem like you're exerting yourself very much.
It's also done. It's like, I'm not going to change and be like, oh, I actually meant I did like
no,
my dog.
I just mean the act of doing it.
Oh,
like,
doing it,
Like
doing
to
it.
go out and sing or dance, those are like, that's probably the most like put yourself out there of the things.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like writing is like just typing and sitting there.
Yes.
And so like you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And like watching now, we exist in a world where social media is how people find out about things. And so to like have to for Daily Stoic, I do like a TikTok and a Instagram reel like every day that I have to like sit in front of a camera and record, which is the opposite of writing. Right. And it's like, and there's a cringeness to it, but then it's also like, if I care about this thing and I want people to hear about it, I have to think about the medium that they're likely to hear about that thing in. And that requires
TikTok.
No, yes. But before to do that, it requires you to be like, yeah, I'm gonna take myself out of the very safe, like no risk universe, which is sitting and writing, and do this other thing. Have you heard of the millennial pause? Mm-mm. Do you know what this? The millennial pause is like anyone over a certain age, when you like start to record, you hit record and then you wait for a second, because like that's like how we've sort of grown up, and like younger people just like start. And the millennial pause is like a very it like reveals how old you are. Like, what do you do?
You hit record and you go, hello.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God. I had a camcorder that it was a feature.
Yeah.
Was it would wait 3 seconds. You'd hit record and it would go, and then gave you time to run into the shot. So that's the Gen X pause.
Yes.
It's a longer pause.
Yeah.
The millennial pause. Let's just, in closing here, because I loved it. I know it's in the intro to the book, so it's kind of obvious maybe for me, or maybe it's cringe or extra. But like, I loved and got a lot out of the Hercules story.
Hercules
and maybe we
and
could talk about that, because there's a lot of, because, you know, at the end of the show, we've been talking about it the whole time, religion and spirit and all that sort of stuff. And I think there's something essential to the origins of the universe and the meaning of life in this story. So that's why I saved it for here.
Well, weirdly, that's also the founding story of Stoicism, which is that Zeno is this successful merchant. He suffers this shipwreck. He washes up in Athens. He has nothing. And he walks to a bookstore. Like 2,300 years ago, there were bookstores. He walks into this bookstore, and the owner of the bookstore is reading Xenophon, but he's reading Xenophon is just Xenophon and Plato are the two people who write Socrates' stories, and he's reading Socrates telling the story of the choice of Hercules.
No way.
Yeah, and Zeno goes to him and he says, where can I find someone like that? And that is what starts him on his journey towards philosophy.
Wow.
But the choice of Hercules is, the story is Hercules as this young man is walking through the hills of Greece, and he comes to this crossroads. The road diverges, like the Robert Frost poem. And
I'm not familiar. Bobby Frost.
You didn't read this at your dentist's office on a poster?
It was right there too. Oh man, why did I choose the path where I made a cleaning appointment?
He can choose between two paths, but at each one there is a goddess, and one goddess promises him everything he wants and a life of ease and pleasure and all the sort of soft things in life, and the other says this will be a harder path and it'll challenge you more, and there'll be risks, and this is
Sacrifice
and all the virtues like restraint and self-discipline and courage, and it's you can have everything you want, you can work for it, which you're going to choose. And he famously chooses the path of virtue. So the Herculean crossroads, or the choice of Hercules, is that. And I think even to go over like the choice to do your best or not do your best, like that, it's all this sort of Herculean, it's all those crossroads moments, like what are you going to do? The hard thing or the easy thing? Or the road less traveled or, the road well traveled. Like it makes all the difference, right? Which one are you going to choose?
I'm not familiar. Yeah. It's interesting. Where I went with that too is that let's anthropomorphize and say there is a God, and it's like you and I. It's a mind and a body, and it's floating in infinity. Didn't God choose the second path too? You know what I mean? When I was little, I was like, if heaven, I don't believe this is the case anymore, but there's heaven and hell, and what you do determines where you go. If that's true, and God loves us, why not just start in heaven?
Sure.
Like, why not just birth souls into paradise? That's kind of what that question is saying. This is why I'm drawn to there's a lot of music. It's surprisingly, a lot of it is pop music that I find very edifying. There's a song on the Sing 2 soundtrack where she goes, I want to feel love and pain. I want to feel pride and shame. This is probably like a huge pop song, and everyone's laughing at how cringe and extra I'm being right now. But I'm just saying, like,
By earnestly saying that you like a song from
that's
a
right.
children's
but
movie.
probably not. Yes, but it's also a pop song. What I'm saying is the embarrassment is if it's Shakira or something, and everyone's like, "How do you not know that?" But it's like I'm really drawn to music like that talks about our either unconscious that we can make conscious, but our desire. We want to feel shame. We want to feel pain. We want to do it wrong. We don't in the moment, but like we were saying, we look back and we go, it was the delayed flight that was the story. But my point is God, let's presuppose a God or imagine a God that could do anything and could have, like the Matrix, created a reality where everything is soft and easy. Clearly that if this God exists, didn't choose that. It chose the one where fucked up shit is constantly happening, kind of like Hercules chose, I'll take the fucked up path.
Well, certainly Jesus picks the harder path, right? Like he could have just eaten an apple and said, like, all your sins are forgiven.
Yes.
He was like, no, I'll do the crucifixion option.
He did.
Yeah.
Right. He could have kept his mouth shut.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even trying to be funny. It's like he was TikToking it. He's like, I gotta go to,
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Jerusalem.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what a pain in the ass.
Sure.
He was also meeting people where they were constantly. Mm-hmm. Imagine being a realized being, and you have to be like, by the way, a realized being 2,000 years ago, and someone's like, no teeth, and a bird is eating one of their eyes. What should we do? And you have to be like, it's sort of like a lost coin, you know, like
Right,
you
he
have
could have
to,
just said what he fucking meant. Instead, he has to tell him a
he
riddle.
has to. What I'm saying is these people were mostly illiterate. He was probably illiterate. Like there wasn't like a lot of resources going around. So you're like, Jesus' stories are very simple, and there's a reason because the people he was talking to, some of them were on fire. You know what I mean? Like literally ablaze.
I think going to the do your best thing, I also think that's what the parable of the talents is about. Right? Like you sort of have these gifts, or you'd be given this thing. Do you increase it? Do you make it into a thing?
The 3 servants are given talents by their master. One buries them. I always relate to that guy.
Yeah.
The scared guy.
It's kind of not it should be they eat, all 3 of them do something different, but it's like one buries them and then
the other 2.
One gets some money and then the other gets like a lot of money out of it. It's not a perfect story.
I'm pretty sure it ends with him beating the guy.
Yeah, and also they're not servants; they're obviously slaves.
Yeah.
But we just don't want. Let's just change the name, and then we won't have to think about it.
Honestly, I think there's a possibility of like a 5,000 years in the future, and they're like, yeah, they were cutting cows' heads off and eating their flesh. Like there's like barbaric things going on constantly.
Yes.
No, I'm not giving a pass at all. Fucked up shit.
But anyways, I think the idea is that you have these. I think it's a wonderful sort of. Fortuitous circumstance that talent, a unit of money, then is also how we now think of like skill. Yeah. And so it's like you've been given this talent, and what do you do with it?
Yeah.
You know, do you take the easy way and sort of coast on it, or do you like make it what it is meant to be?
That's interesting. There's different altitudes I think that Jesus is teaching on. That seems like a practical, that's a Tim Ferriss. That's a life hack. You know what I mean? He's like, you have this opportunity, use it, spend it, risk it.
Right.
But then my favorite of Jesus' stories are the ones where like he hires 3 people to work in their fields. Again, maybe. Yeah. But one of them shows up at 8 a.m. This is a paraphrase. One of them shows up at 8 and works all day. One of them shows up at 10 and works all day. One of them shows up at like 9 p.m. and works for 20 minutes, and they all get paid the same. Those are the ones that I'm like, that feels like the highest altitude. He's not telling you how to live your life. He's telling you that you're loved no matter what.
The weird thing for me is I am fascinated with Jesus, and I've read about him quite a bit, and then I'm like, Seneca was alive at the same time, just saying what he fucking meant, like living in a house. Yeah, like it was also this sort of mystical nonsense for like no reason. Like
Jesus?
Yeah.
Like he didn't have to be so esoteric?
Well, just like people read the Bible and they're like, oh, it was so long ago. And it's like, there were like normal people doing normal things at that time. Like, senator was a job then and now, like this wasn't, there's works of literature that
aren't esoteric.
Yeah.
That are very clear.
Yeah. And the people had normal-ish names and you're never reading like a story about some Roman and they're like, and he lived to be 432 years old and had 19 children. And, like there were non-crazy people then. Like it's not.
That's hilarious. Like it wasn't all goofy goof.
Seneca's brother is in the Bible.
Wow.
He's Gaio. He lets St. Paul go.
Whoa, crazy.
Yeah. And so, the Bible is this weird kind of, it's like hearing voices and there's all this stuff.
But on the same note,
what?
I just watched The Last Duel.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is like 1,000 years after Jesus or more.
Yeah.
It's roughly like 1,200 or something like around there. And I'm like, they're still like brushing their teeth with a rat. And I'm like, the fact that 1,000 years before that,
the argument is that
love your neighbor.
The argument is that Rome is the like sort of apotheosis of civilization. Then Christianity takes us here, and then
is that what it is?
Then the Enlightenment and the Renaissance come out here.
Oh, so it was here.
Yeah.
And then we go down here and we're brushing with rats and fighting Adam Driver in a Coliseum.
This is like the Pope putting, like a cow on trial for tempting someone into fucking it and stuff. Like this is the ridiculousness of
the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Like the things that the Romans had, like that then the Dark Ages were like, oh yeah, we don't know how to do that anymore. It's like it's because you burned all their fucking books and stuff.
One of the craziest Control-Alt-Deletes of our history. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let's close. Let's delete these programs.
You know what my favorite Jesus meme is? He's like, Jesus walks into a restaurant and they go like, we want a table for 24. And she goes, there's only 12 of you. And he says, we're all going to sit on the same side.
That is a table for 24. That's very good. That's very good. Mine is, it's the Earth, and then it zooms out to the solar system, and as far out as we go, and there's a giant Jesus, and he's saying, don't masturbate. Oh, my God. Do you have any new spiritual insights before we go? What a weird question. I'm just, as I was saying that, I was like, my belief, just to load you with something, so it's not just a bald question, my belief is the further out you go, you're not really going anywhere, meaning that it's all in here as well. You know what I mean? Is like when people look at the new satellite photos and they're like, doesn't that make you feel insignificant? And I've tried to express this before and I don't know how well of a job I did, but it's like anything out there is also here, meaning it's all the same thing. If it's all written on, if I'm the paper it's all written on, deep down consciousness, it doesn't matter how far up, down, left, or right we go. It's all one phenomenon.
Well, it's like looking at some crazy thing from outer space. That is incomprehensibly vast and, all this stuff. And it's not really any more incomprehensible than like the back of your hand.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like it's easier to go like, whoa, imagine how many planets that is. And it's like, how did you hear the thought, whoa, imagine how many planets that is? Like that, and I say this every time I say this, but like, why do you have to be stoned for that to be interesting? How can you hear your thoughts?
Sure.
How can you put this together and it just becomes normal that my body's here? Because I know if I touch this, I don't feel it, but I touch this and I feel it. But like we see with our kids, like they're in the soup. Like they're seeing this for as amazing as it is.
Well, economists talk about this too. Adam Smith writes Wealth of Nations, and then he writes this book called The Theory of Moral Sentiments, which is sort of based on Stoicism, a couple other philosophical schools. But like, it's also a miracle that like if you go to the store right now and you want milk, this is the example they use, although people don't drink milk anymore. But you're like, how do they know?
Milk?
How do they know you want it? And how do they have it there? And how did it get there? It's fucking incomprehensible. Like
the data that went into that?
Just all of it. Just like that you decided right now to want something, and then you can go to a place that you didn't tell you wanted it, and they knew you wanted it and had it there just in time, even though it expired. Like all of the uncoordinated magic and wisdom and human interactions and things that had to go right for that to occur is like very remarkable. And that's like such an utterly ordinary thing.
That's right.
And then you're like, okay, how some immense, like the invention of a vaccine, or, you know, like some massively coordinated human thing that's even more impressive, but just like passively, just like most of the stuff you want, whenever you want it, is there. And that is not a historical
it's
constant.
worthy. It's worthy. Yeah, that's right. That's interesting. What helped me as I was thinking about what you were saying is that's sort of the magic of the movies, is when I tell you a story, how amazing is it that I or someone wrote a story and we both watch it and we're like moved to tears or whatever. Like we both watch Moonlight and we're like, you know what I mean? That's also a miracle, but we're like, I went to the movies. It's like, no, someone
then you're complaining that the ticket was however much.
Exactly.
The popcorn was like a little expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
But what a miracle that
all of
even
it's
happened.
a miracle. It's all insane.
This sort of goes back to what you were saying. It's like, to me, motivating yourself with fear or ego or desperation or rivalry there's a parallel to being like needing the universe to be like categorically like data-based. This is how vast it is. This is how deep it is. This is the rate at which it's expanding. You tell me how fast we're spinning and how fast we're going. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't need that. That to me seems like the sweatier version of going like, or you could just sit in a chair and go like, what the fuck am I?
Yeah.
It's so close. I'm not saying, by the way, this sounds like I'm anti-space exploration. I'm just saying, I don't have to go that far to be like, in fact, I don't know if it's helpful to go that far.
It's all magical.
Right.
Yeah.
And it starts with you. So go to the closest thing.
Or like, you know, each person is, you know, has a totally unique set of DNA that's never existed before, ever in human history. Then you layer on top of that the moment that they're born, the experiences that, like, every part of you has never existed ever before.
You are the rarest comic book there's ever been.
And yet, also, like I saw this New York Times piece about it, there's probably someone that looks like exactly like you walking the earth also at the same time.
Ike Barinholtz.
And it's just like insane.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's funny, being a public person, someone's going to say figure, take it easy. But a public person, people will send me, hey, I'm in Sweden, look at this guy. And I'm like, oh my God, it's me.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
It is weird.
Yeah, super precious. I love all of these thought experiments, and I always enjoy talking with you. Is there anything that we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I don't have an agenda.
You have an agenda. You have an alt-right agenda.
Yes,
and
best kind.
I've known this about you for a very long time. Well, thanks.
By the way, your interview with Robert Greene was so good.
Wasn't it great? Thank you for making it. Did you like it?
It was so good.
That means a lot because it was in my mind. I was like, I hope Ryan likes this. I'm touched you even listened to it.
It was so good.
He was awesome.
He's the best.
I think I told this to him, not what I was expecting. The guy that's like 48 laws of power, and he comes in and you're like, Yoda? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You expect like a bro. I thought it'd have Oakleys on the back of his head.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit. Just based on the titles.
Interesting.
Then I did any research and I knew it wasn't going to be that way. But, you know, I had that with Father Greg Boyle, the founder of Homeboy Industries, the gang rehabilitation. Brilliant. The whole time I was picturing, I think I was picturing...
Like he would be ex-gang?
Like he would be ex-gang.
Is he?
No.
Oh.
He looks like Santa Claus.
Interesting.
He's a Santa Claus figure. That's a great episode, by the way.
I will
would
listen
enjoy
to
that. And if you have guests on your podcast, he would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Can you think of this is the third time you've done the show, so I've probably asked you this 3 times, so feel free to pass. But can you think of a time in your life when you laughed really, 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 really hard?
Yeah, I think I told a kid one last time, but I have a different one that I was thinking of. We were at this pool, and we'd gotten food delivered, so we were sitting outside eating, and my son walked up to me, and he goes, "Is this the dead bird you were talking about?" And then he was holding a dead bird that he found on the ground. And I think about it all the time. We talk about it all the time because none of it makes any sense at all. Where did he get the dead bird? He didn't kill the dead bird. Like he found a dead bird. He was like, I found it right here. But it was like,
You weren't
what
talking
dead
about
bird was
one?
I talking about? And it just, so what was happening in his head where he goes, this is did he make it up? You know, it's just magic.
I am dead, and it's so the essence of parenting. And now that Leela's almost 4, we have a shared file in our phone, and we just write them down. They'll never be as precious to anyone else as they are to me, but that one, I think anyone can get that one. Is this the dead bird you were talking about? What?
And what do you think would happen? Yes. Let's eat it. You know, like it was just.
Well, you see them doing what we do, which is continuing. I'm not saying your son is. I think we all do this, confusing reality with inner reality.
Yes.
And dreams, and I see Leela do this with TV. I do it with TV. Now that I'm older, I'm seeing a deterioration where I'm like, but aren't you the guy who cooks meth?
Yeah.
In his Winnebago? Not really, but like little.
Have you heard them say like, smash that subscribe button? Like things that they've heard on YouTube? That's the best.
Oh, no.
Yes. Like just leave a link in the or like I'll leave a link in the comments below. They'll just say things.
Hilarious.
Like, yes, it's the best. It also makes you feel like a horrible parent because you're like, you're watching too much, but it's also hilarious.
Well, we're staying away from YouTube as long as we can. No judgment. That's not, but because I don't want to leave my daughter with an iPad and 45 minutes, she's a flat earther. Mm-hmm. She's just like, wake up, sheeple. My daughter just said, wake up, sheeple to me. Right. I think you're just the juice, man. You're super cool, and I love talking with you. And I'm just trying to give you a compliment and be like, not a lot of people have done the show 3 times, and not a lot of people have done the show 3 times, and every time I've never worried about what we're going to talk about. Like, I've enjoyed reading your new book, getting ready, but like, I'm not like, what are we going to say? So you're the best.
Well, thank you.
Would you give us your third, but first on camera, keep it crispy?
Yeah, keep it crispy.
Without hesitation. Thank you so much, man.
You made it weird. You made it weird. You made it weird. Oh yeah. You made it weird. You made it weird. You made it weird. Oh yeah. You made it weird. You made it weird. You made it weird.